I found it.
I linked.
Thanks.
All right, we are now live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IPFS All Hands Call. This is the first call out of a few today. We have this every week, and it's a pretty good time to get also an overview of everything, but really it's about figuring out where we are in each project and what we're going to be doing this coming week. This next 2 weeks are going to be a bit interesting because for each call, we're going to be going over roadmaps for the entire subsection. So we have 5 calls happening after this call. First being Go IPFS, followed by JS IPFS, libp2p, Orbit, and IPLD, I believe in that order. You can see the sprint issue at number 210 for more, and we'll have Etherpad links for each one of those. We can collaborate on a documentation. For this call, if you have any questions or following along on the stream, welcome and thank you. And you can drop them in IRC and I'll try to surface them. And if I can't, just ping someone on IRC because we're all here. And thank you very much. I'm going to hand it to Emily now, who is leading this call. So Emily, take it away.
Thanks, Richard. So first order of business, yes, Friedel.
Yeah, our note taker is not around.
So our first order of business is we need a note taker because Lars is not going to be here. Would someone like to volunteer, or I can voluntold someone?
Voluntold, that's a new word.
Yeah.
I can take notes. It's all right.
That would be great. Thank you, Friedel. And so once we have that, we can start doing the roll call. This is something that we do when we have a diverse group of members attending our calls. So I'll kick off. My name is Emily. I'm project manager for IPFS, Go IPFS, and JS IPFS. And then anyone else, feel free to move forward.
I think we go normally geographically. So I think Kabuksu, you're next.
So I'm Kubuksu Kuba. I'm working on Go IPFS on everything there is, helping Jeremy and Lars.
Hello, my name is Had or Samuli. I work on Orbit and Orbit TV. Hector, you're next because East Berlin and West Berlin.
Hi, so Hector. I just joined the organization, so nice to see you all finally. And I'm pretty lost at the moment. I need to catch up on a lot of things, but I hope I will be seeing you in Toronto also in a few days. So it's good to meet you all.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Friedel.
Yes. Welcome, first of all, Hector. And yeah, I'm Friedel or Dignified Choir. I am in Germany as well, but on the other side. And I work on lots of JavaScript things at the moment. And yeah, mostly JS IPFS and trying to figure that out.
Awesome. David.
All right, I'm David. I work for Protocol Labs, being mostly focused on JS IPFS, libp2p, IPLD, basically all over the place that JavaScript is present. Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right, I think I'm further east because I'm leaning forward. So I'm Richard. I am, actually you are. I work on various documentation and community stuff with IPFS. And yeah, that's my main thing. Sometimes websites as well.
And I'm Matt Zumwalt. I'm the program manager for Protocol Labs. So I'm responsible for thinking of the whole overall organizational roadmap, making sure things stay in sync and that we're communicating clearly and we're engaging with the community as healthily as we can, and all of that as a whole piece.
Awesome.
And wait, you missed Jeremy.
Oh.
So hi, I'm Jeremy, also known as Why You're Sleeping. I've got a bit of a cold right now, so my voice isn't that great. but I work on anything that is prefixed with Go in our entire organization. So Go IPFS, Go LibBTP, whatever. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely sound like you have a cold. Asian hangover. Is that really what it is?
Jeremy, go home and get rest. Don't hang out.
He's already home. He's in home.
Go more home then.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Next, we're just going to take a call if there are any additional agenda items. There are none on the issues, so it looks like this might be a fairly short call. So here's the type pad. If you have anything else that you want to add, go ahead. I'll give people a couple of minutes to get that sorted. But while that is happening, I did want to speak a little to what Richard mentioned during the intro. We are going to be taking a intentional focus over the next couple of weeks during our sprint calls. We're wrapping up the quarter. At the beginning of this quarter, we set some potentially ambitious milestones for various projects, and we are coming to the end of Q3 for this year, and so we're going to be looking to Q4 and figuring out how we end this year strong and start next year strong. So in preparation for that, the calls over the next couple of weeks will be focused on sort of those milestone lists that we have for this quarter. So what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, what needs to happen next. We just had a great size of our crew go to DevCon 2, and there was some awesome things that came out of it. Mostly the fact that, you know, all three of our attendees are here and not being held hostage somewhere for, you know, a Merkel DAG ransom. So I'm glad everyone got back. Excited to see how that plays out. It looks like we have a couple of different things, but let's get kicked off with the agenda. So roadmaps, Q3 planning. I kind of said something about that, Matt. Do you want to jump in and add to that?
Yeah, the only thing to add, so this week is going to be especially focused on Q3 review. So it's mainly, ideally, each project should look at the roadmap that you set 3 months ago and just look through those milestones, try to identify what are the milestones that appeared over the past 3 months that maybe were not listed originally. Just acknowledge all that stuff and try to get it represented in one place. Make sure that you've gathered all that and done a pretty thorough check-in of what happened over the last 3 months. One thing to keep in mind is that we're wanting to move towards more and more community-centric process around this stuff. So this time, I feel like we didn't get the message out soon enough to committers and community members about the fact that we're talking about roadmaps. That's not so big of a deal for this call this week because we're basically just talking about what happened. So anyone who's watching this, you can just watch this and you will be informed about what happened over the last quarter. But then coming up next week, we will be talking about figuring out what needs to happen over the next 3 months. And so if you are a committer, if you're contributing code, if you are building libraries that rely directly on this stuff, you are welcome to join in that conversation. And so I wanted to just flag that and make sure everyone who's running these calls keeps that in mind of that process.
Something we can do, I think, which would be nice, is keep these videos public this week so that people can actually look at these videos and post them in an issue or say very clearly, you can look at the stream for these calls from this Monday.
Are they not always public?
They're always public, but we generally unlist them after a couple days. Yeah, and we haven't actually talked about that, so maybe that'd be a good issue to talk about as well. The note taker could write that. Riddle?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I don't think we actually have made the unlisted the videos in the last couple of weeks, unless you did it. But the last time I looked, they were still on.
It's been pretty scattershot as to how I do them, because there's been no oversight, and I haven't even logged that. So yeah, I think
we should discuss this policy around this, because
let's open an issue about it. I totally agree. Now's the time.
Because it probably might make sense to keep them around for at least a little bit longer so people can go back. Like,
100% agreed. Let's do it.
Cool.
Nicola made it.
I think when we started this process, we were a bit more security conscious about, like, you know, what we talk about, because it wasn't really clear how these things worked very well. That was 6 months ago. Now that we have a much more community-centered vibe around these videos, much more open in how we announce them, I think our priorities have changed, and so that's actually more of a topic now. So yeah, I'd really relish the chance to talk about that, especially this coming week, so we can maybe get that blog post up that we drafted, and then talk about next week when we have Q4 talks.
That's all I had to say about roadmaps, Emily.
Thanks. Well, since you were already unmuted, hey, Matt, where are you right now?
Oh, we'll switch the order. Yeah, so we're at Hydra.
Oh, is that right?
Which is a conference that's being hosted at the Boston Public Library, which means that right now there are more IPFS people in Boston than there are in Berlin. So this is an organization. It's an open source project that I was very actively involved in for a lot of the past 10 years. There's about, I think there's like 300 people here, and it's people who focus on libraries and archives and building digital repositories for holding their digital collections. So we're here partially so Richard can observe things about how they run this very large open source community with a lot of big institutions involved, and also very small institutions. And we're also here to advocate for IPFS and why these institutions and organizations should be thinking about putting their collections onto IPFS rather than using a centralized server approach for storing all of this digital heritage and data that are coming out of these research institutions and libraries. And there are a lot of people who are really bright people who've done a lot of really hard work with linked data here. So it's a great opportunity for Nicola to come and meet them tomorrow. And as he's finalizing the IPLD spec, that he can talk to people who've banged their heads against linked data for years. And he can see how this stuff maps to their real world use cases. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
Awesome. And you should have some snazzy t-shirts delivered later on today.
They had some pretty cool t-shirts here.
Take pictures. Take lots of pictures. We're bike shitting. I'll reach out to you after this. Well, awesome. Well, glad you guys are out there. And excited to hear what comes out of this week. It sounds like it's going to be a good time. And you get to see Nicola, which that just makes everything worth it. So, Matt, tell me about IIIF.
All right. This is mainly flagging the fact that there's a conversation already going online on GitHub tickets about IIIF, which is the International Image Interoperability Framework. This is the result of when you have really big images to serving them for people to actually view them in something like a viewer or a page turner, like a page turning application, so you could turn through scanned pages of a book, is way harder than you would think. And it's been an absolute nightmare for libraries and archives for many years. So about 5 years ago, a bunch of big institutions just said, we're just going to write our own standard for how to do this because we understand the use cases. And that resulted in this framework. There is now a lot of people who are working with IIIF are looking at serving content directly from IPFS using the IIIF APIs to consume stuff from IPFS. There's a lot of really interesting stuff there. And so that conversation is accumulating on a ticket that's linked in the agenda. And Friedel and I will both be going to the IIIF meeting in The Hague in 2 weeks to give a lightning talk and just to answer questions. So exciting stuff. Follow along.
Awesome. That is it for our established agenda items. Last call. Is there anything else that someone would like to discuss before we move into demos?
Should we give a small update on DevCon regarding IPFS, like what happened there and what the feedback was, or anything related to IPFS?
Heck yes. If you want to do that now, I would love to hear that.
David and Jeremy can add more to this. Basically, the feedback was awesome. A lot of people are using IPFS, and a lot of them really, really like it. And we heard a lot of compliments. So trying to pass that to the whole community, because there was a lot of love for IPFS in that conference. What else? David, Jeremy, any?
I would talk more, but it's not fun, so I'm gonna pass for this one.
If we want to go more in depth, so there's a lot of conversations, there are a lot of groups that were using IPFS that we didn't know about. We got a bunch of cards from people saying, "Oh, like we are using IPFS, like, and we've been using for many times. Like, we should catch up." There was a very there was a lot of time invested on chatting with the Ethereum community, chatting with Ethereum developers, getting stuff like even like the Ethereum overlay peer-to-peer demo working. It was on us and on them as well. Like we worked together to get that working, and the talk was a great success. And I think it communicated a very positive message to the entire crowd in that conference and to everyone that was listening that there's a lot of collaboration between these two groups. I believe that the videos are not up yet, but you will see when they are up, like people cheering just for the fact that they saw Ethereum running on the browser. And then when we said and this was made thanks to these people from IPFS and Ethereum, and everyone was just things together. So that was really exciting. And then after we talked on the third day, the conference was 3 days, and we talked on the last day. And after that talk, it was everyone just swarming after us, which was pretty exciting. So and then we stayed almost a week more. A lot of people stayed 3 more days, so we continued having conversations even post-conference. So I guess a takeaway is if we go to a conference of this size with this community, maybe we should always stay a couple more days, because there's a lot of interesting conversations that happen after the rest of the crowd already went home. I would definitely recommend, I strongly recommend everyone to watch Juan's talk. It has really a lot of valuable information.
So the talks are not online yet, right?
Once they are.
Right. So on that note, the update is basically that we gave 3 talks, one from Juan regarding IPFS and Filecoin. So there's a lot of information regarding that too for those of you who are interested. David's talk was basically Ethereum in the browser with live peer-to-peer, so IPFS. That was a huge success. And I talked about Orbit and building distributed apps for the Web 3.0. And as far as I could tell, all of the talks were very much liked. So hopefully next week or this week, or I don't know when exactly, the videos will be online, and we'll make sure to share them to the community as soon as they arrive.
On that, I do have a lot of notes and a lot of images, and even the demo video and the code that I want to convert into a blog post. Right now, with the remaining time of Q3, basically, I've been just heads down on IPLD stuff, applying all the things that we taught on the last 2 to 3 weeks so that we can get those out of the door. And I've been also like catching up with everything because like we basically were offline from a very long time. And yeah, so I do plan to have after or during Team Week to have this blog post ready. Right now, I guess this is important, not just IPFS specific. I have a talk to deliver this Thursday, and I will be participating on a Docker event in Berlin Friday. So there you go, 2 days was at least like 1 day to prepare the talk, or at least like half a day to prepare the talk. So that takes a lot of my time, and I still have to prepare all the things for next week. So blog post, IPLD, pops up, I don't know. It will happen somehow. There you go. So
I have a question.
It's not there yet. It's because of all this.
So for you guys, when you were thinking about, like I remember, I forget which conference it was that Juan went to before, but I remember he went to a conference and there were a lot of great feedback that definitely kind of impacted some of the goals that he set for Q3. So for David, Stanley, Jeremy, if you feel like speaking up, did either of you guys receive, feedback or have exchanges that altered the way that you thought about your roadmap or what you were going to make a priority, like thinking about the next quarter? Or did it confirm some of the priorities that you had already set and you knew that they were the right thing? Like what were some of those reactions that you guys had?
So a couple of notes / thoughts on that. It definitely, like, again, confirmation that IPLD is one thing that's going to be very transformative and for a lot of use cases. And we already knew that. We definitely worked a lot on IPLD during this quarter. We don't have like a ready version for people to consume, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't ship it, because the ways that we integrate things and the ways that we describe things has changed, has evolved, and now it's better. And there is a pull request and a lot of notes on that that I can link on the Etherpad. So that was one. Another one was PubSub. People want to build completely decentralized, distributed applications from like just with these building blocks that IPFS offers. And now with FloodSub, we have that, and like basically had concluded that on DEF CON, and I showed to everyone a real distributed application without any centralized point whatsoever. So again, like confirmed that we knew that PubSub was a big thing to ship for this quarter. Although though, it's very important. And this will definitely go into the retrospectives into like planning the roadmap. We just learned that we had to do PubSub like 4 weeks ago, because we had it on the wall when we were planning the roadmap for the quarter. And then there was the question, which of things should be dropped from or should be like lower the priority? And PubSub was one of them that was lower the priority. And it was not only P2P roadmap, it was not on just IPFS roadmap, it was just in some spreadsheet roadmap. And like there was a lot of reviews of the just IPFS roadmap and the P2P roadmap and meetings every week, and no one brought PubSub up till we basically 2 weeks before DEF CON talked and said, hey, like, what are we going to show there? And like, yeah, like it's going to be Orbit completely decentralized. Oh, so we need PubSub. Oh, so better get that going. So this is like a very key learning from this quarter. When we get to do the timeline for the roadmaps, and we get like to again do the priority dance, we just have to make sure that like everything gets communicated really well, because it seemed that although roadmaps were up, not everyone had the same idea of what the roadmap was. So there. You want to go say something, man?
Yeah, I would like to add to that. On my side, pretty much agree with David said. I feel CIDs and PubSub are big things for IPFS. For Orbit, we received a lot of good feedback. We made a lot of actually good work during or the days leading up to DevCon. So we fixed a lot of bugs in Orbit itself, and we'll put more effort in the next quarter to make Orbit an actually usable thing for us to start using it. See where that goes. But let's talk about that in the next call, or the Orbit call.
Matt, you had your hand.
With the one question and then one observation, like in the open source world, I've definitely heard people toss around this term conference-driven development, where you actually explicitly acknowledge you are going to have really motivating deadlines of wanting to present something at a conference, and that it actually is sometimes a very useful way to structure your roadmap. And so, like, basically, we did not use that approach when we formally planned our roadmap, and then ended up following that approach in terms of what actually was on our roadmap. So that's something to keep in mind as we plan for the next quarter. The question was, did these conversations, specifically you said IPLD, it became even clearer that IPLD is going to be really important and really transformative. Did these conversations clarify your understanding of why? Like, what are the use cases that are motivating people to want to use IPLD? Or were they just use cases you're already familiar with?
So we had already like a bunch of use cases, and we knew that there was a lot of interest. But we have been like going back and forth on what should be the interfaces and what should we give to people to build IPLD formats, or enable our IPLD resolvers to go through their already built Merkleized data structures. It's like as a little of technical deep understanding, but in essence is there's always like two ways, or you encapsulate the other data structures in our own, and like you make their data right on IPFS through our own format, or we have IPLD, which is like this generic linking approach where we can link any data structure. When we had after Team Week, we had even been like joking it internally, saying that like it was the Lisbon Treaty, where we spent like 2 nights working and we got to seed the content identifier, which now we have a way not only to link to content, but also to link to its data type through a multi-codec. And also we have a way to update those identifiers over time if we need to have new versions. That enabled us to not only link to Merkle blobs, but now we can link to Git objects and Ethereum blocks and blockchain things. The only missing part was, okay, now what primitives should people build on top of their Merkle-like formats so that IPLD can actually resolve them? Because it's not just like having the format or having the ID. It's really like you have to have a code that like receives some kind of like plugin that, oh, now I know how to parse through these other objects that have a completely different format. And that's like some of the things that we figured out on the past couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And we got to the chance to chat, especially with the Ethereum people that are really interested of putting everything, the Ethereum blockchain, into IPFS, or at least like see it working that way. And we've been like bouncing ideas back and forth and iterating over it quickly and understanding what we need to build in order to enable this. And again, there is like this PR which points to other things with a lot more information about this. So definitely these conversations were really useful. Did I answer your question, Matt? And I'm sure if I went on a tangent there. So Friedel has his hand in the air.
I wanted to ask one other question around the planning of how PubSub suddenly appeared. I was wondering if the issue was that not everybody was on the same page in the sense that PubSub was lower priority, or if you simply changed the priority 2 weeks before the conference because said, well, we want this demo and we are changing priority now, even though this was the roadmap. Because this is a very different thing, right? Because everybody was clear up to this point and now we change it. Or was there just a misunderstanding beforehand?
Yeah. So it was clearly miscommunication. And what we concluded was there was the initial, there was the whole thing's roadmap, the wall with basically one row, all the post-its that everyone remembers pretty well. And then there was the second iteration over that, which is what are the things should we drop to prioritize the other ones? And that's when PubSub was one of the post-its that went into the second row. Is everyone visualizing what I'm saying, the wall in Lisbon? Okay. And then from the first row, all of the project leads, namely myself, Jeremy, and Samuli, grabbed as the first row as being their official roadmap. So if you check the roadmap, specifically the first row, there's a lot of things more than PubSub that were in the second row that were not done this quarter. And because that was the way that we perceived it. Okay, it's on the second row, it's on priority. If we finish everything on the first row, we go into the second row. However, because PubSub was a key component to get into this conference, what means PubSub should never went to the second row in the first place. But also there was a compromise, because we have been talking on Team Week about PubSub as being this really awesome PubSub that will scale to millions of nodes. And that's why we have been doing the literature review, and we have now a repo, and more people are chiming in, and there's a lot of discussion over there. But we didn't separate when we were planning the roadmap the super PubSub and the flat sub. And right now what we have is the flat sub, which is something that offers the primitives that we want from PubSub, but it doesn't necessarily scale to millions of nodes because it's very chatty. We don't have much market. We don't know what's the limit, but we know that we can do the tree farming of these published trees way better, and that's where all the literature review comes in. So I guess what we should have done in Team Week, but we didn't realize have two PubSub post-its and one float sub and the other one PubSub. And what happened in September was the project leads, the people that are managing the sessions every week and that write the roadmaps, didn't understand that the flood sub was a need.
So I understood our discussions then a little bit differently, because we wanted to really focus on getting IPLD done. So we were prioritizing IPLD so much that we pushed off everything else what was possible from the main goals, which was including the PubSub.
But that's true. We prioritized IPLD a lot, but there was a lot of other things that were on the first row, and they are basically described on the roadmaps of the projects. There's a lot of other things that we've been working on this quarter, not only IPLD. And throughout all of the reviews for the roadmaps, no one mentioned PubSub even once. So again, miscommunication, and then we didn't realize, or we didn't, some people were thinking about PubSub as the full thing, and what we needed was PubSub all the time. And if we had understood that back then, it would be more obvious. But I agree with what Matt is saying. Is having these conferences, having these demos, having these product release deadlines really help us assert and understand if we are walking. It helps us adjust our course more clearly. And I guess that's what we probably should include for the next quarter. Every month, understand what's coming up on the next following months, and see, are we doing the things that we need to get to that stage? Because the PubSub story is even more funnier than that. Literally, we thought about it, and I mentioned it on the P2P chat, and Samuli was listening to it and said, "Oh, we are getting PubSub, so we can do that full demo." And it's yeah, that's what we should be doing. So it was I don't know, cosmic coincidence. Plus, I'm happy that we had a discussion at that day because it gave us time to think up through it and make it happen. But having a monthly sync up and making sure that we are walking on the right direction seems a good thing to take to the next quarter. Go ahead, man.
The other thing that gives you that sanity check that this demo gave you of like seeing how all the pieces that need to be there in order to achieve something is when you have people who are wanting to roll something out into production. So people who have a product that's or a service that's using IPFS or using any of these layers of code that they need to deliver, like they need to roll out features and functionality based on promises you've made. And currently we don't really have the voices of those people on these calls. And hopefully as more people are building that kind of stuff and as we like figure out our governance model, we'll have those voices more prominently in our decisions. And then they will definitely be in that position to push back and be like, but you need to do this in order for it to work so that we can put this in production. So that's the other way you get that feedback. Like there's the one so that you can do a demo, and the other is like so someone can get it in production.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. Well, thanks for giving. Oh, did you want to keep going, David? Let me first ask, are there any, I'm sure you could go on, and I'm glad that you guys took some time to talk a little bit about DevCon. The pictures helped, so thanks for pictures that were shared too. Before we jump back into DevCon, I do want to open up some space for any demos. If there's something that you've been working on and you would like to show off, it can literally be anything. Opening the floor for that. No demos from Orbit. Vaksu, did you have anything to share? I feel like you're a regular demoer.
I could reference the fact that I made like 70 PRs on Friday, for which I'm sorry for notifications. Basically, I'm trying to make sure that we don't have broken links everywhere when we move repos. The issue with unpackage was fixed, but in the future, I'm trying to see if I can make that automatically so that we have like a sort of regular check for IPFS, multi-format, libp2p, IPLD, and all our different organizations we're spawning to make sure that like our standards readmes are good, our links are all good, nothing breaks, everyone's happy. And that was like one of the first cool automatic ways of me doing it. So that's what I did. That's kind of my demo.
Awesome. I have a white bar on my screen.
Looks great, David. Is this a Pong?
David, you're sharing your screen?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened from your side. I was just like, I clicked the share screen button. Sorry if I could change.
Try closing it. I'm just seeing like a white stripe down the middle of the screen. I'm not
not your screen, man.
I'm showing a video. Like, do you see stuff happening?
No. Try exiting it, and then when you share screen, you might need to select a different. Oh, now I see. Yes.
You see stuff?
Yes.
So like during DevCon, because like we have like very short times for talking, literally like I had 10 minutes. Imagine what it is to give a talk in 10 minutes.
I don't know how you did it.
It's like torture. So
we're all very proud of you,
David. The demos, and this was the demo that one of the demos I showed during my talk. And what you will see here is the Ethereum VM running on top of we peer-to-peer to fetch the Ethereum blocks from the Ethereum network. So that's the web. You got like this really nice UI that Friedel was making remotely. Thank you, Friedel. You're awesome. Making like this like cool code. And okay, so let me pause here for a second. What happened? I clicked the start button. If you saw, like the video is speeded up because like this is like very CPU bound operations. Like I needed to speed up the video, so like I couldn't make it on time. So now I click start. Now it's like fetching blocks from the Ethereum network. But before you receive blocks, it has to generate the Genesis block, and that again, it's a CPU bound, very intensive function. So it takes a little bit of time, but we'll get there. Wait just a little bit. You can see me even speeding up more. You can see the dots just like running. And drum roll.
There it is.
So now we are like fetching the blocks and like it's validating each block, and we can see the transactions and the balance like changing. And yeah, so this is a very simple application. It's basically grabbing the Ethereum JS VM, getting the blocks, adding them to the blockchain and to the microstate tree, and like running the blockchain and seeing how the state changes. The state being like what the balance that the accounts have and so on. Ethereum has like better apps. Like they have a lot of wallets that we can use. This was an app specifically made to show the blockchain or the blocks being executed on the Ethereum JS VM and like fetch truly peer-to-peer. This example is available on the JS Ethereum peer-to-peer repo, and this is like one of the things that will go into the blog post alongside with the tutorial of how to get it running. Yeah, so this was a demo. I hope Matt wants to say something. Go ahead.
I can give a demo too. Let's do people have questions about your demo.
Really cool.
All right. So how does that share screen? And then I want to share that one. All right. So this, if you follow that IIIF thing that I linked to in the notes, Ed Silverton just posted a link to this. This is a IIIF viewer that can view stuff from any IIIF server, but in this case, he's serving the tiles directly from IPFS. So, for example, in this case, it's a IIIF viewer, so it's for like serving very high resolution images. This actual sample image is not very high resolution, but it lets you do things like zoom in and zoom out and move around, which is the same pattern that you use when you're displaying things like maps. So that pattern of being able to have tiles pre-registered on IPFS and then having a viewer that's serving the content directly from IPFS is something that people already have working, and it sounds like it was pretty darn simple to do, and they're pretty excited about the opportunities it creates for them. And that's the demo. So I thought I'd flag that. It's actually very similar to the, like we already have these demos of like a video player serving stuff directly from IPFS. This is just sort of parallel to that, but it's doing stuff with tiled high resolution images instead.
Very awesome. So we have about 13 more minutes on the call. And I know that David could fill this up.
I'm just going to say, like, because I've been heads down with all the DEF CON and all the other stuff, I haven't been catching as much attention to what you just showed, Matt, and the conversation and the preparation for the talk, especially for next year, for the conference, which I'm not remembering the name. But we should definitely, I definitely want to catch up with you and I can understand what is the state of things and what to do next. We still have a lot of time, I know, but like there's a lot of that has happened so far. And if we have time this week or maybe during Team Week, to be great, just to chat and like know what's next. I think you're still muted, Matt.
I was saying, let's make sure we don't miss the deadline for proposing on that thing.
October 20, right?
Okay, so that's tight. So we should not wait until, because Friedel and I will probably come back with great ideas, but that would be too late because that's in 2 weeks. So we should definitely talk about that this week.
Okay, that's good.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're back, David.
Thanks.
And family. And Jerome.
So while we still have time, how about we do note taker and moderator?
That sounds great. So moderator for next week.
Do
it, David. Do it. Commit.
No, I was going to say, because like next week is going to be talking about like roadmaps.
That's true.
So like we'll need someone to herd the people that are going to join through video call and the ones that are on the one room. So I would vote or I would ask someone who has like really like good experience with this, because it's going to be like especially hard to do it next week. more than all the other weeks.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Next week is going to be different because I totally wasn't even thinking about that. So, yes, Matt, you're muted.
I keep doing it.
I will moderate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then note taker.
Okay.
No, we can make Lars do it because Lars is really good at it.
Yeah, let's make Lars do it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lars, do you oppose? Cool. He doesn't oppose. That's
It's okay. It's okay.
He'll be okay with that. He missed today. All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, it's about 10 minutes till. Our next call up is going to be for Go IPFS. Links will be posted in the IRC room, and we will see everybody then.
Was it Go IPFS first last week?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, one thing, since we have 10 minutes, maybe it's a good moment to bring it up. I'm invited to Open Nebula conference later in October, like around the 26th or something. And I used to work for Open Nebula in the past, and the guys just said, come by, we're gonna pay the hotel and the fee. So it will be a good opportunity to sort of maybe promote IPFS, or at least let people know about IPFS over there. Which takes me to the question of how to do that. And OpenNebula is a cloud management system, something.
Yeah. So what you want to do is talk to Juan about this, because he has kind of like a set spiel for getting people up to speed on talking to other people about IPFS at conferences, and like he has good tips on how to present as well and how to get the ideas across well. So definitely get in touch with him about that.
Also, talk to me about how to propose a conference to go to, and I'll help you out with setting up the right issues and stuff to enable asynchronous communication. So I'll be pinging you on Slack. Just get ready.
Perfect. And someone should send me the link to Slack and add me to.
Yeah, I'll be talking to you about that too.
Okay. Very good. So I bring up the thing again through the appropriate channels. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you for flagging that, though. That's awesome.
No problem.
Yes, and again, welcome, Hector. Excited to get to know you. I think that is it for the all hands call. So we can wrap up the stream and get ready for the next one. We can still hang out on a Zoom, but we don't need to keep the stream live.
We're gonna Richard and I are gonna switch laptops because he's gonna go get food.
our Q3 milestones. Let's talk about that. The biggest milestone that we had set up for ourselves this entire, set of months was IPLD. And we made a little bit of progress on that. Not nearly as much as we'd hoped to have done by now, but we've been.
No, there's no note taker, and the link that Emily shared is not shared on IRC. So
Come on, Emily.
who wants to take notes? Lars, you should take notes.
Yeah, me? Oh, okay. There it is.
Please try and share stuff in the Etherpad, not in the chat on this, because the chat on this doesn't go to the stream. So
Yep.
it'll get lost, and the Etherpad is recorded somewhere.
The chat does go through the stream. I actually stream the chat.
But you can't
That
click
goes
it.
through the stream, but you can't click it. So you can put it in the Etherpad. That'd be sweet.
Yes, you
Or
can
both.
click it.
Okay, no stills.
Okay, I'm ready to take notes. So, first thing was IPLD, right?
Well, the biggest thing is IPLD. And what we've gotten so far on that is that, I'm not muted, am I? Okay, good, not muted. What we've gotten so far on that is the content IDs have been implemented and partially integrated into the code base. Beyond that, we have a very solid idea of what the interfaces are going to look like. We've, discussed that and hashed that out for many, many, many hours. And we have a pretty good idea of something that is going to work. And we have the integration path is clear. Now all that's left to do is touch every single file in the entire code base and make those changes. So I'm in the progress of doing that right now. That's what I've been working on this weekend, and why nobody's really heard from me much, because that's just an inordinate amount of work. But that's going well. I'm hoping to have it done by Team Week. I will be posting some updates on that today about the progress there and what's going on. But I'm really, really, really excited about it, because it means a few things. One, we'll be able to have files that have raw leaf nodes, which means less overhead. And also that the IPFS blocks are going to fit within disk blocks perfectly, which would be really cool. And then the other thing is that we'll be able to very quickly and easily in the future address blocks and Merkle-DAG nodes from other systems like Ethereum. So through IPFS, you'll be able to address Ethereum blocks, which I think is amazing. And you can do that with Bitcoin. You can do that with like BitTorrent, with their Merkle tree stuff. You can do that with Git. All of that will just it can just work, which is exciting. So next, past IPLD, we had this crazy idea of making JavaScript and Go interop correctly. I'm pretty happy to say that works, right, David? That works, right? We got that working. You're muted. We got it working. Yes, we did. It's pretty cool. And we also, at the same time, the only reason we got it working is because we both implemented PubSub, and they're like, oh crap, we want to do PubSub between us. So we made it work just to do PubSub. Like, if it weren't for PubSub, we wouldn't have had this. We probably wouldn't have got this working. But that was a great motivator, and we got it done, and it's super cool. And pull streams suck. Just gonna throw that out there.
No. You got it wrong.
So yeah.
They're cool. They don't suck.
Oh, they pull streams pull. Got it.
What Jeremy is saying is that we definitely spent some extra hours trying to figure out where errors were happening, because pull streams like, just going to fail and I'll tell you why. Or just going to fail you like 200 levels down the stack. And because it's JavaScript, let me print you just a partial stack trace so that you have to guess where the error comes from. And that's why Jeremy had.
Is that mainly just because Pullstream is really new, or relatively new, compared to other streams implementations?
That doesn't necessarily justify. Like, tools can be improved, and the ecosystem can be developed, and it will, or at least we are counting on that, and we see a lot of potential there. But there is some things that could be already there, and that we were not expecting that they weren't. And because of that, we had to pay the cost of like longer hours of debugging. Also, like we see a lot of like recursive calls happening inside pool streams, and so far we haven't hit any like max exceeded stack trace, but it's very possible because sometimes like it happens a lot. And that's a bug. That's not even like a documentation or ecosystem, but that's just simply wrong. So
Can we get back to Go IPFS maybe?
Yeah. So back on topic, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
I know this is important, so that whoever is watching understands why. But in the end,
Yep. Cool. So JS Go interrupt. It's great. It's awesome. You guys should try it. The next thing that was a big thing on our list was we wanted to release IPFS 043. We actually wanted to release that at last team week, but we ended up having some issues, and Juan had some strong opinions about the way things were done, which is all very correct. And so we had pushed it back and refined it a bunch, and it is way better because of it. So yeah, this IPFS 043 is out. You all should definitely try it. It's way better than 042. And the next thing on top of that is we also wanted to ship 044, and that is a bit farther out. That's not going to happen this quarter, but 044 has some really cool stuff in it that once we do ship, it's going to be great. In particular, we have some really cool DHT fixes that improve bandwidth consumption all around, which is just going to be awesome. Yes, so the next milestone that we had set for ourselves was PubSub.
can we just like can I make just a question on 4.4? I understand like we are really like 1 week away from ending this quarter, but like do we like what are the blockers for 4.4 or what's left? Maybe
Probably about a month and a half worth of RC.
Okay, so for everyone that was listening on like the JS IPFS and IPFS interrupt, it only interrupts with 4.4 because it needs some speedy changes that are not present on 4.3. So if you try to dial from a JS IPFS node to a bootstrap node to a gateway, it will not work. Or it will say yes, but it will fail internally. You need to be running basically Go IPFS master or it will not work. So that's it. Thank you. 1.5.
Cool. So yeah, next up is PubSub. We wanted to have a PubSub implementation, and as David mentioned in the first talk, that we weren't planning on doing this, at least me and David weren't, until we decided that, oh, we need this. So we made this. And now we have a working, basic, simple PubSub implementation. The key thing here is that it works. So if you pull down Go IPFS master and you run the daemon with -- enable PubSub experiment, you will have the PubSubs everything enabled. And what this lets you do is if you connect nodes that are running this PubSub code, you can subscribe on one and publish message from another, and the other one will get it. And you can have a whole swarm of them. And if they're all subscribed to the same topic and one of them publishes something, they'll all get that message that was subscribed or published. So it's just, simple PubSub, but it works, and it works peer-to-peer. There's no central server, and it's super cool. And people should definitely go try it, but with the caveat that it is still experimental. It's not, it hasn't been really heavily tested, so we have it hidden behind an experimental flag. But given those warnings, it's still pretty cool. So definitely go try it. Next up on our stuff, we had 2 more milestones, one of which is resource constraints. And basically the idea behind this is we wanted to improve basically how much CPU and memory and bandwidth and everything IPFS uses. And I think we've so far been pretty successful towards this. 043 is a lot more well-behaved than 042 was. It uses much less memory, it uses less CPU for different things, and it uses a fair deal less bandwidth. 044 is even better on this in terms of memory and bandwidth usage. And also, since it uses less bandwidth, it uses less CPU to process all those messages. So once we have 044 released, we're going to be pretty good down that road of using way less bandwidth and everything else. Memory usage is still higher than we'd like it, and that's going to be an increasing priority because we want to be able to run on smaller devices and we want to be able to do these cool things. So that's going to be something we probably talk about during our next planning meetup and see if we want to prioritize that. The last thing is we wanted to have a much better code coverage and test coverage over the entirety of all of our repos. And we've made some pretty solid progress so far, but we're still not there yet. We're probably about 2/3 of the way, like between 1/2 and 2/3 of the way there across all of our Go repos. So it's not where we wanted to be, but we could definitely use some help because adding new tests is pretty easy work. It's just takes a little while to do, and just got to take the time to go do it. So it's a great place for anybody who's interested in helping us out to get started. Just go find some package or repository in the Go code base and say, hey, I want to make these tests better, and add more tests and PR it up and let us know. Beyond that, we're probably not going to get all of that done in time by the end of this quarter, whatever. But we're getting there. It's much better than it was previously. And I think that is all of my milestones. Oh, the IPFS Core API. It was actually one of our milestones. Lars, do you want to give an update there?
Yep, I didn't get, well, the goal was to start implementing the core API that has been specified and implemented partially in JS IPFS for a long time already, to do the same in Go IPFS, and the facilitator for that is supposed to be the gateway and the extraction of the gateway from the Go IPFS codebase into its own tool, and made a bit of progress there, and the gateway there's 2 pull requests open, and after those, the gateway can pretty much get extracted. And I might get that done this week, but I'm definitely not gonna get all of this formal milestone in the repo done, because that also includes implementing more sections of the core API and, for example, moving a lot of the commands code in Go IPFS to using the core API. But yeah, I think the actual milestone was getting the gateway extracted, and the core API, introducing the core API got part of that. And so I think the gateway, I'll get that done this week. And yeah, but regarding the core API itself, there's quite a lot more work to do until we can call it finished.
Cool, thank you. It's pretty exciting stuff to have that done, though, because once we get that more finalized, we can start making the HTTP API library start to match that, and then we can actually put a bunch more work on making that better. And then we can build test suites around, generic core IPFS API and just plug in either the HTTP or the, core node version and get some cool stuff being tested there and get that better. Right, so that's all that I think I've got. Does anybody else want to bring anything up? Or should we switch modes and go over current issues?
I have a process question, but I want to leave people an opportunity to continue reviewing the Q3 roadmap. So before we switch to looking forward, I want to ask a process question. Do people have other comments about the past 3 months?
No? Come on.
IRC. Okay. So Juan has at a number of points asked, he has expressed wanting to be able to have sort of a record of what were the milestones we declared 3 months ago and what are the milestones so being able to see the diff, what changed over that time. Do you think that would have been useful on this call to have that list of here's what we said we were going to do, and then to have the current list of this is what we actually did. Do you think that would have added something in terms of utility for you, Jeremy, in terms of being able to report, or for any of the rest of you in terms of being able to see what's being reported?
I think having more organized information in general is always a good thing. So yeah, I think that would be helpful to have. I don't know how it would have specifically impacted this other than having a different place to look for the milestones. But yeah, let's definitely do something like that and have that available.
Cool. Yeah, because that's my thinking is that we can use HOT's roadmap generator to generate that as an artifact that's a markdown file that's in your repo that you might even update a couple times within a quarter, but you can, like on a call like this, you can just like open up the commit for the version of that roadmap file from the beginning of the quarter, and you have that record. So I've been thinking about that. I just wasn't confident that it would actually be useful. So I didn't want to push too hard for something that's entirely clear.
Yeah.
If we're going to switch into looking forward, I wonder, since people will be joining next week to talk about Q4, or we hope that people from the community will join. Now is a good opportunity to pose questions to the community of what are questions you would like to have answered that would help you plan the Q4 roadmap next week.
I don't really know.
Or you can just launch into talking about the stuff.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity for that if stuff occurs to you.
Does anybody else have any ideas? Laws?
Like additional stuff to talk about now, or?
Or we could just end the call early. If we've covered looking back at the roadmap and we feel like we're going to be good with doing the looking forward on next week's call.
Yeah, I guess we could. That works too.
Do you have ideas about like high level priorities for the next quarter of like what are going to be the framing things?
So yeah, like high level priorities is clean up, improve code quality and clean up. As and then make sure IPLD gets out the door.
Yeah.
So yeah, about those. Anything else is getting dropped.
Private networks?
Yeah.
IPLD, clean up, improve code quality, clean up.
Tutorial.
Do you have only one hand?
I've only got one. Yep.
Private networks are like, if we want to do them properly, they are harder than they sound.
That's and that's private networks, but there's also this dead simple approach of just encrypting the stuff on the encrypting the key.
Yes,
itself.
but for that we need multi-key, key store, and none of the key store is spec'd out, but multi-key isn't, and the spec was supposed to be written long time ago.
Okay, so even that dead simple implementation is harder than it sounds.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and we can even go forward without the multi-key spec because we currently have our keys right now are technically multi-keys, as they're a protobuf that gives you type information about the keys as well as the data. And we have implemented ED25519 keys, and we're working on pushing that up into the main code base. The transition path is a bit weird at this point because if you try to use an ED25519 key as your node's actual ID key, you're not going to be able to talk to anybody else who doesn't support that. So we're trying to figure that transition path out. But in general, we can move forward without it. It just gets a little weird.
You could really have nodes with RSA and ED talking, because it's not Diffie-Hellman key, it's signing key. So you can do exchange of temporary keys, diffie-Hellman keys with like incompatible keys.
You can, but the other node has to also support EP5519. They have to be running the new code.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So that's that. We can, like, if private networks is a huge like thing that people really want, we can work on that and try to get it in. But I definitely want to keep most of our focus on improving the code base, making things cleaner, faster, work better in general, and not try to focus on shipping any new features.
That makes sense to me, especially since Q4 is a shorter quarter.
Yeah.
Due to the
Q4 is going to be holidays and all of that, and we don't want to push ourselves to any really hard goals that are going to be hard to keep given the availability of the team.
It's good for me to know, though, that like because I really care about private networks, I think that it's an extremely important thing that prevents a lot of people from adopting IPFS. Not that in order for them to adopt it, you need that feature. But putting the pressure on me to make sure that we're gathering those use cases and getting them expressed really clearly and pushing forward the underlying specs of what it needs to do and the underlying things. Like I can work on at least gathering that information over the next quarter so that then if it's a priority for Q1, we're ready.
Yeah.
One more point.
Now announced Filecoin. Is there anything Filecoin related that has to happen on the IPFS side?
For now, it's pretty good. We're going to definitely want to look at different routing or content routing mechanisms, but at this point, it's fairly quiet on the IPFS front for that.
I have two more things that might come up, and one is continuing the work on the core API, and which can be broken into little parts nicely and be picked up. And it counts as a cleanup, right? Exactly.
Yeah, it does count as a cleanup. And anything that we're currently doing right now can, if we haven't finished in Q3, it can flow over to Q4 just fine. But I don't want to add anything new that's not on our Q3 roadmap or, clean up for Q4.
I see. Yep, that makes sense.
So yeah, I think that's all I've got. And that's what the future looks like. Does anybody want to do a song and dance routine for us? Beautiful, beautiful. Exactly what I was hoping for. David is just in his own world right now, though. Just completely
bothered.
David, Go. He doesn't care about Go.
It's like
David went.
It's like, when can I talk about
I just care about Go.
Wait, when do I get to talk about JavaScript?
Are we talking about interop?
What was the problem with pull streams again? Pull streams pull.
Pull streams pull.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, for a
What's up
minute,
next?
I believe it's JS. I've lost my.
JS IPFS is up next with David Diaz talking about JavaScript and not just interrupt.
Woohoo!
Oh, I got one more question. What was it? Cleanup, IPLD, cleanup,
and improve code quality.
Yep, great.
Yep.
Code coverage.
That works too. That's part of cleanup and improve code quality.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy Rostow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to JS IPFS. This is the second of 5 individual sprint calls happening this Monday, where we're going to go over basically Q3 goals and how much we've accomplished in Q3. David Diaz is going to be leading. If you have any questions, drop them in IRC, and I'll try to voice them here over the air if you're streaming. But other than that, David Diaz, take it away.
Thank you. Awesome. So as always, we always have the path with an agenda. Before jumping into Q3 review and what's next for Q4, let's just do a catch up because we have been traveling a lot and we didn't have the chance to sync up as often as we usually do. And we have also been attacking a lot of fronts. The crypto endeavor where we are going more towards async crypto APIs, which use web crypto instead of NodeForge, IPLD, the new interfaces, integration of PubSub into JS IPFS, not only the PubSub over peer-to-peer, and other things. So on that, you would like to go technical points, Frido?
We don't have a note taker.
That's a good technical point.
I can take notes.
Wondering? Thank you. Awesome. Cool. Let's do this thing. So quick catch up. So we already mentioned a couple of times. From my side, I've been mostly focused on DevCon 2 things, which means basically having PubSub interop with Go, so that we had that work, and that led to getting SecIO interop, which led to JS IPFS and Go IPFS interop, and also Ethereum over peer-to-peer. After that, after DevCon, what I shift my focus towards was getting all of the ideas and all of the discussions and all of the notes translated into code on IPLD land. So now we have this very, let me bring it up. It's important for everyone to check, or at least to have the reference. Okay, so we have this awesome IPLB. I just posted here the link anyway. If you want to move it around, feel free. So we have this awesome IPLB endeavor. I decided to call it awesome because I got really excited when we figure out the API for these things. It has again a lot of domain knowledge is required. You have to understand the thought, the steps we went through to understand completely what is being done here. Nevertheless, the PR should give you enough information to understand what is being applied. If you agree or don't agree with any of the decisions, that's different, but probably if you don't disagree with something, feel free to post a comment, but there will be another thread, another note from a discussion, another reason why this is being done this way, not some other way. Already some people opened some questions and they have been answered. So yeah, that's what I've been focusing on. And that's what I'm trying to push as hard as I can to get to Teamweek. Friedel, would you like to give an update? I Friedel prepared, that was really awesome, prepared a gist of all the things that have been happening while I was gone. I already went through it, but Friedel, if you want to bring it up quickly for everyone.
Yeah, sure. I just want to have one question about the IPLD stuff. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing still. I read through the PR and the description you gave, and I'm still having a hard time understanding a lot of the reasons, why it's happening, and the difference.
What's happening again?
Why the changes were made or the decisions were made, how they're made, and it would be great to have a little more in-depth description of those.
I believe Nicola, for example, will bring a lot of that to the IPLD discussion today. The goal remains the same. So IPLD, the universal, the canonical way to link to all sorts of data, and IPLD resolver, a way to traverse through any kinds of marginalized data structures. And that PR and all of the PR that PR links to is basically all of the ideas and all of the things that we found to work for all of these marginalized data structures to all of the ideas being applied to code. So yeah, like more IPLD discussions. There was like some questions about like if other numerical data structures should be transformed into native IPLD. But what we figured out in the TLDR way is that like we don't need to transform any other data to IPLD data, and we should not even like force things to say, oh, we are IPLD native or something. Like we can have IPLD for Seaboard, we can have IPLD for protobufs. Ethereum blocks can be also IPLD. Bitcoin blocks can be also IPLD. Like as long as they offer the primitives that the resolver needs to go through those blocks and to traverse them, which is basically two calls, one called tree, another called resolve, we are able to do that. But again, more of that on the IPLD discussions where Nicole will be present as well. I'm sure you will like to be part of the discussion.
Yeah, let's definitely have that talk in IPLD session.
That's good. Yeah,
yeah.
But agree, there will be more context.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, let me quickly go through then what happened, except like other than IPLD, right? So most of these things were already happening. We talked about last week, and the week before when you were away. We were without David, all alone. So the most important thing that was still happening this week is the move to web crypto and JS IPFS and the I think 15 PRs or so associated with that. This is a much bigger change than I would like it to be, but there is very little I could do about that because web crypto forces you to do crypto asynchronously. The way that is implemented in the browser, it is always done off thread. So the render thread is never used. This means it has to be asynchronous. Otherwise, it just wouldn't make sense for the browser. But all other crypto libraries.
When we get to that, sorry to interrupt you, Friedel, just like for everyone to know. So like this change was not planned for this quarter. It is part of the milestone 4 developer experience. It was something that was brought up, and it is especially interesting because it's just like speeds up our crypto usage, which was like 80% of the time of running at JSIPFS was like spent in crypto, and we got like a huge speed boost out of it. And also the other big advantage is that like the steps to run at JSIPFS in the browser are greatly reduced, or JSIPFS API for that matter. Also, the bundle size gets reduced because we don't have to import Node.Forge, which was like a huge dependency, and we are using just like native APIs that are available in the browser or in Node without having to do crypto in pure JavaScript, which again like gives us speed, reduces the bundle size, and like the developer experience is just better. So like these would be items of the milestone 4, which we are basically shipping on this quarter.
Yeah. Also, one important thing to note here for me personally, at least, is the crypto that ships in browsers is at least reviewed to a degree. A lot of the crypto in JavaScript is not officially reviewed by security experts. At least they're not mentioning it. Maybe they have been reviewed and they're not official. Yeah, so it gives us a little bit more in terms of confidence of what the libraries we're using, which is nice. Yes, so the two main benefits, as David said here, are file size, bundle size. The current test version that I have on my machine drops the minified size of JavaScript JS IPFS fully for the browser down to 1.2 meg. So I hope that by the end of this year, I will be able to ship a version which is below 1 meg. That's the goal.
Some ways to say that.
Which is pretty cool, I think, given the fact
we
that
started this quarter. I don't think you said it. We started this quarter at 4 megs.
Yes, we started at 4 megs, so we're
pretty
going pretty down. Yeah, just in comparison, currently the version that we ship of JS IPFS API is at 1 meg. So yeah.
Cool.
This is going pretty well. I also got some help today from someone I hadn't seen before, which is nice.
You asked for some help.
1 second.
Sure.
I had to receive a
Cookie.
yeah. So this is pretty cool. Yes, this was not planned. One thing that was planned that I worked on, which is also pretty cool but not fully ready yet, is log files. So currently JS IPFS doesn't play nicely with the log files that Go IPFS generates. It just creates a API log file which shouldn't actually log the repo. It's just for information purposes. For that, we had to re-implement something that actually used the same system calls on Unix systems, fcntl, to actually unlock and log properly the repo.log file that Go IPFS generates. So for that, I ported the Go version of the log file library to JavaScript, which is working now, and released as a module. So the next step is we only have to integrate it into JS IPFS in the same way that Go integrates it. Which that means that now if your daemon crashes and you restart it, you will be able to restart it and not be greeted with an error that there is an API file still lying around, which is nice. Yes. Other than that, there are lots of fixes. The test coverage was increased. IPFS on NPM, the Go IPFS uses now 0.4.3, and IPFS daemon controller now use 0.4.3. So everybody can now enjoy the latest Go IPFS through JavaScript, which is good. Yes. And some more fixes for interop between Go and JavaScript. One note on the interop, we're not fully there yet, sadly. I have to admit. This is most likely due to some error in bitswap, but I'm not 100% sure on this. But there is an issue documenting exactly what is happening currently, but effectively we can't transfer large directories and files from Go to JavaScript. The other way works. I can transfer things from JavaScript to Go, but if I try to fetch larger things from Go, it will stop fetching. And I had very weird experiences ranging from just stopping to that in the want list there are hashes that aren't existent in the JS nor in Go. So like, where's this hash coming from? I don't know. So something is not right in this interop, which we need to debug at some point properly.
Sweet. Thank you. Yeah, on the interop, we have interop at the peer-to-peer level, so SegIOs, multi-streams, all that stuff. Bitswap is a thing that we knew we could exchange blocks, but we never planned to test the interop very exhaustively. And we discovered or learned that it doesn't behave that well when we increase the number of files or the size of the files last month. So we discovered that last month before DevCon. And yeah, it was again one of those times where it was by pure coincidence that we were testing Orbit, and I was like, oh, let me use JS IPFS to fetch the latest Orbit builds because we now have interop with SegIO and everything, and then it didn't work. And I was like, oh, why doesn't it work? So like one of the things that we discussed during DevCon in terms of retrospectives is that we have to improve our way where we how we test this stuff, and we need to get more hands on testing the thing that we're building. It's JS IPFS, Go IPFS, Orbit, whatever. It is often the case that after we release something or we publish something, that someone else finds bugs for us, which is great. I mean, that should keep happening. Probably we can detect those beforehand if we also dog food more the stuff that we have. that being said, cool. Thank you for the update, Friedel, and thank you for like getting this sum up and for leading the charge while I was absent for so many moons. Let's go to the next item on the agenda if no one else has anything to say on so far. Cool. Okay. Next item. Let's go to look at the roadmap. I have at this moment the roadmap.md file. I just posted here on Zoom. I can post also on the Etherpad so that everyone can follow.
Matt, maybe can you share your screen or someone? I can't. So.
I can share my screen. I guess.
David. Yeah, that would be nice.
Where is my screen? Okay. You guys see it? You see like my Chrome tab? Cool. So the roadmap file on JS IPFS, this was a milestone 1, previous quarter, although this item here, Sakayo, was like partially done because we just really got it done this quarter in terms of interop. It worked for JavaScript, but there was some nuances when we dialed to go in ways that the public keys was shared and the ways that the Mac was transferred that we just figured out this quarter. So like this was JS built on Q1, JS with interop Q2. Cool. Okay. First item, so like milestone 2. So like for this quarter in JS IPFS, we have a bunch of milestones here, but the ones that we really decided to do this quarter was milestone 2 and milestone 3. But we also ended up doing something here from milestone 4. First task was interface definition, documentation, and test coverage for both JS IPFS and JS IPFS API, the interface IPFS core effort. We did a lot of those. As you can see, like, there is even one more, which is the HT that can be clicked. I need to submit a pull request to this one. Like we basically created a spec for all of these APIs and tests that now are being applied to JS IPFS API and JS IPFS. This was great. Basically, we got better test coverage, pruned out a bunch of bugs, and also like forced us to like make the code more obvious, both in JS IPFS. Now, if you look at JS IPFS, the components, like they're way more cleaner, and JS IPFS API suffered like a huge refactor. We called it the next generation JS IPFS API, where like it's not as mad as it was before to actually dig into JS IPFS API code anymore. Because before this quarter, it was like pure magic. Like you'd have to dial into everything that was happening there. Each time you wanted to make a change, and now things are like modular and like there is tests for everything. It's just like way nice. There's still room to improve, but a lot of work was done there. This is missing too. So Victor was doing this DHT API one. Now he's sick and he's out, so he's probably not going to finish. This doesn't require a lot of work. It's just like putting hours here, defining, writing the specs and writing the tests. So if someone wants to like chip in on this one, that'd be pretty great because then we can like call it done for this quarter. That'd be awesome. I know everyone's too busy. Cool. Then the next one was for busting testing infrastructure. So we did a lot of this installation of tests. We also added a lot, like we now have the interface IPFS core tests testing directly in the core of JS IPFS. And then we put them also behind the HTTP API and we test it through JS IPFS API. So we are running the tests that we run against Go against the HTTP API to the IPFS core, which means it gets double tested. And we actually found bugs because of this. So it was super useful to do that. And when we were doing this, we isolated. Now you can like grab, or like at least I believe, I don't want to say anything wrong here, but I know that you can like say, I just want to test the files API tests, and like you just test the files API tests, or you just want to test the whole core tests, and you just test the core tests. Like you don't have to run our tests all the time, because before we had like the bad practice of creating setup scripts for our tests, and now we have things like IPFS factories, which gives us IPFS nodes on the fly that we don't need to set up before running the tests, and that enables us to like just activate the batch of tests that we need. So like what we did was like follow the like standard best testing practices, which is a test should be composed of a setup, a test, and as an insertion. And we were doing setup for everyone, and then test and insertion. And then, did anyone know that, get what I said? Like, sorry for all the gestures. I hope this was clear enough. Cool.
One
So,
note on that. Yes, you're right. They're better isolated now. We still have the little bit of bad practice is that, for example, in the files tests, that the first test would be add, and then it would add a file. And the next test is get, and it gets that file that was added previously. So if the add test fails, the get will fail, even though it actually works. So this is something we should also look into.
yeah, like agreed. There's some dependencies though, because like if like we could say, oh, let's add the file on the get test as well, but then like if the add fails on the first one, it also will fail on this for the get. So yeah, always like if let's improve those, and like everyone that's like doing the JS code, like if you when you're running a test, always like have in mind, oh, I have to make like every test as like independent as possible. But like if some cases are just impossible, like this one, because if you cannot have, then like it will not work. Also, like don't spend like thousands of hours trying to figure out another one. Cool. Next up, the item was interoperability tests between JS IPFS and IPFS. We have a bunch of tests or a bunch of script files that we use to test this stuff now. We don't have them on CI yet. And the reason why we don't have them on CI is because like getting them on CI right now will require us to have like dev builds of Go IPFS, and then having the IPFS node modules able to download dev builds. Right now, when we test, for example, JS IPFS API against Go IPFS, we use IPFS daemon controller, and it downloads a daemon from Go IPFS, and it always downloads a released version. And in order to like test interoperability, as I said, like interoperability will only be real when we get the 0.44 release. Would mean that now we like to set up all of these processes to release dev versions and like be able to install dev versions to NPM modules, which is okay to do. It will be just like a lot of work, and we kind of like kept deferring it to like, okay, let's do it after. Let's focus on the other things that are more crucial right now. So still missing that goal. I do believe that like once we get like 404, this will get like way more easier, and we can like save all of this time. Although like having the dev builds would also be very useful for testing things like pops up and other stuff that will not be on release versions.
David, I can't raise my virtual hand, but so for example, we are testing against JS IPFS API against the head, right, Jeremy? So I think it would be good for you to like try testing have one test running against also the Go IPFS test ahead, because it would lead to the like regression detection. Like the regression
that'd be really useful.
The regression won't be detected at the stage when we are preparing release, but when the regression is introduced.
I see. Well, as I said, like basically that requires us to find like or to have precompiled versions, or to have like our own.
Just build it in the CI.
Yeah,
like
we can also add that.
All the JS IPFS API in CI.
Yeah, we can also add that. We have that from time here.
Also, we were talking a lot about nightly snapshots of our builds, so that could also be an option.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the things
you have 5 minutes left to cover. I don't know if you want to roll through the other milestones.
Okay, David, I want to say something very quickly. I was working on the Go IPFS depths package in Shanghai for the flood sub binary of Go IPFS. And FYI, I think Friedel, you'll be interested as well, is that I got it working in a way that we can now build any target on CI. So basically building OS X on Linux and building even Windows, I guess, on Linux for Go IPFS deb. As long as we have the binaries, we can do that. But I need to PR that at some point. So at least is one of the problems that we've had for forever, I think.
That'll be pretty useful, yeah. Like I wasn't aware that was like part of like the Go IPFS deb code. I thought it was just like something that you had to do to get the Electron built for all the other ones. That's pretty cool. Sweet. Yeah, like PR, like even if it's not complete, just PR so that we can keep track of it.
Yeah, I'll do so in the next 2 days or so.
Sweet, thank you. Cool. So Matt raised a very important point. We have 3 minutes now. Benchmarking tests. We have some benchmarking tests. We basically pulled the benchmarking tests from Go and run them. It's merged yet.
This is not merged because the aliases for the HTTP and CLI API are still not there for get, add, and
yeah, we have to merge that one.
But I want to also mention that we have also more benchmarks. They're mostly on the libptp modules, but for the crypto parts, I did add a number of benchmarks in various modules, which are micro benchmarks, but they're specifically there to see how fast things like RSA, keygen.
Understood. Although like these were more like benchmarks for just IPFS and like getting blocks moved around. But yeah, so like we have benchmarks. It's not merged yet, but there is a pull request that does it. The other thing was stress tests. So one of the things that is not mentioned here, but it was definitely on everyone's mind, is getting the sharpness tests. And Chris School has been working on that. We have now the first iteration of getting sharpness working on JS IPFS. And he's working on other PRs with the rest of the sharpness tests and basically saying, hey, like for the files API, these sharpness tests fail, or like let's figure out why. So like that will give us a way to make JS IPFS very robust, comparing to like if it passes on Go IPFS, it has to pass on JS IPFS, and like it gives us hints of where things are failing from the start. So that's pretty cool. IP-TP integration didn't happen. Basically, we didn't have time to look at it. Let me go through other things. You can see that like on this milestone there's like extra. So like following your comment, Matt, on Go IPFS chat, you mentioned like it would be very good to know what was planned and what was really done. So like extra is like what was really done. So like more than what was planned. All of these things were planned with that. And also, there are some dependencies here. Doesn't matter. On the milestone 3, you can see like tasks aren't available because like we knew we wanted to move to IPLD, but this was like really blurry. Like no one knew exactly how to go to that in terms of like quantifiable tasks of changing code. But now we have that PR that I mentioned on the All-Lanes call that I can link again. Also on IPLD endeavor, which is pretty much it. So again, posting here the link. So that awesome IPLD endeavor is these milestone 3 list of tasks that have to happen in order to get IPLD on just IPFS. I will certainly update the roadmap soon with these list of tasks, now that we know what we have to do. Last but not the least, so like we said, we were not going to do milestone 4 for this quarter, but we got the crypto pretty much done, just needs to be merged. And I'm sure a lot of other things happen. Like there's a lot of like examples that were written. There was like getting it's still a work in progress, but like getting more information out and a simpler process for the modules that are being webpacked so that people don't have so many roles webpacking just IPFS API or just IPFS. We have been seeing a lot of people from the community jumping in and saying, hey, like I want to solve this problem for you. And then they come up with code, and that's pretty cool. Thank you for all the contributors that have been appearing on the last couple of weeks.
Hey, David, technical point. It's at 2:00 and we need to start the libp2p call.
All right. I have my last slide. Thank you. Move forward. Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for being awesome. We're glad you're back.
Thank you. Everyone is awesome.
Thank you for being back. And
cool. So libp2p now?
Yeah. All right. 1 minute cut. We libp2p. Well,
almost. Let's update the IRC first. Yeah. So I just did that.
Cool.
Let me know when to announce. I guess now.
Yeah, announce now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. If you just joined, I suspect you haven't. I suspect you've also been in the previous call. Welcome to libp2p. It's the start of the call today. As I've said before, we're going over past milestones in Q3 this week. So this will not be so much of what's going on next week, but much more what happened in the past 3 weeks in preparation for next week when we talk about what's going to be happening in Q4. Smiley face. Thank you, David Diaz. And David's leading this call, so I'm going to turn it over to the jokester and let him just joke away.
Thank you, Richard. I discovered that there is an annotate feature, which is pretty cool.
Who is the note taker for this call?
So who is the note taker? Silence.
I can take note. Thank you, Matt. Okay.
Okay. Let's go do the same thing. So just making sure. So, okay. Cool. libp2p, thank you, Richard. Sorry, everyone, for this silence. We have an uptaker. Thank you, Matt. Doing the same thing that we did for IPFS, quick catch up, what everyone is focused on. We pretty much already said it, right? Like we got Stack.io interop across implementations, working on the last weeks. Friedel has been doing a lot of like refactoring to move to a sync crypto, which mostly touches libp2p. Crypto now is way faster, which means you can like send way more blocks because, as was noted before, we spent 80% of the running time on crypto. This will enable apps like Orbit to run in the browser and like work way faster. Yeah, so that's the quick catch up. Friedel, do you have anything else to add to this that like your or Victor might have done last?
Let me quickly check if there's anything else important.
Yeah,
no.
Okay, I think
most of the stuff was cleanup and just housekeeping and some smaller bug fixes. But the main thing that happened in the P2P was, yes, as you said, intro op and improving crypto.
Sweet. Okay, thank you. So to the roadmap. Hello, whoever. Okay, thank you, Richard. We reviewed the roadmap. We have a bunch of milestones here. For this quarter, we were mostly focused on the first 5, although we dropped the milestone 2 as a milestone that needs to be reviewed during next week, as we already have discussed on like 3 syncs ago. So the first milestone was yes and go libp2p interop. Yes, we have succeeded. We have that. Nevertheless, like there was one item that was like automated tests. We want to have these on CI because it is just hard to like mess with all this networking stack without being afraid of messing something that will break interop. So not having these in CI is not that great. We need to make them. We need to get these into CI. Why don't we have them on CI? We started like building some scripts to like be able to test them on CI. We didn't get a good way. So IPFS has really this nice CLI where it's like very easy like to run commands and like has this really nice API. Go with peer-to-peer and just with peer-to-peer don't have that necessarily. We can like build some tools on top of it, and that's like basically the scripts that we've been running. Basically, recipes of things that we want to test with Speedy, with Sec.io, with Identify, with TCP, with WebSockets, and we just like run those scripts and see it working. We need to like hook them up into CI. And it was mostly like we have the script, we didn't hook them into CI. It's mostly like a question of time. So yeah, we need to finish that. Milestone 2, milestone 2 was dropped. Yeah, so that was like the big code milestone that was 90% achieved during this quarter.
Can we please turn off the drawings? It's really distracting.
Clear. Okay, clear all. Cool. Thank you. So milestone 3, standardized organization. One of the things that happened this quarter was moving the peer-to-peer modules that was scattered over many orgs and user accounts to one peer-to-peer org. It's now github.com/peer-to-peer. Everything is there. Richard is super excited. Yeah, so it gives you a nice search. You can just do a JS dash or Go dash or even Rust dash because there's something in Rust. There is something in Python. It's all there. Things are more modular than ever. We even have like a quick list of things that like if you want to build a peer-to-peer implementation, here's the things that you should be writing in the language of your choice now, which is pretty cool. So Richard, you like basically captain all of these milestones. Would you like to give an update on that? You're pretty in a good place.
Yeah. So we're in a pretty good place. There's actually a board called Project Repos, project-repos.ipfs.io, which allows you to see the state of the entire organization. At this point, every single thing has a README and a mention. The README has been standardized, which means it has like a table of contents, install, usage, contribute, license. There's actually quite a few outstanding pull requests which need review. Last I checked, there was something like 70 open pull requests that are authored by me that need review. So if people wanted to do stuff, that'd be awesome. Really easy way of getting into the organization is just review those PRs. But basically everything's pretty good here. I've been going through and trying to update all the links. There's a few things which haven't been moved over, and there's a few things I'd like to talk about, like how we reference future repos by making links to them probably isn't ideal. But overall, we're a lot better off than we were at the start of this. So I think we're getting there.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you for doing all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did like a lot of pull requests in review. Probably like they're solid. It just like thumbs up and like merge. We'll try to like go through them as soon as I find some time.
Yeah, there's no real like.
Can we get a list? Can we get a list?
Yes, I can give you a list.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, like, if you can do a pull request to the roadmap and like just check the items that were already done, and like for the one that's missing, like point to an issue which has the list of things that need to be checked. So me and Frino do this a lot, right? Like each time we have to do something that's very big, we create an issue with a lot of like checkboxes.
Yep.
So like we have a way to like understand how far we are from achieving that. And that way,
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you. Okay, that helps a lot. Cool. So the next milestone is again like Richard captain this one as well with peer-to-peer.io. I know that right now I'm the blocker because I need to give review on copy and content for the peer-to-peer.io website. But we do have you can check with peer-to-peer-website and we have a layout. We have a thing that runs. You want to go and say what you want there?
Update for that is that basically we started out with the Jekyll thing, decided it wasn't needed, it wasn't necessary enough. Like Jekyll has some issues with being hosted on IPFS because while it works really well if you have like IPNS working, or if you have a local host, it doesn't work very well when access to a gateway because all the links break. So we have to use a smarter static site generator when we have more than one page on a site, which is kind of unfortunate, and we should document that in like an example or something. But what I did was I actually went through and made a Hugo site, and it's almost ready to go. We were hoping to have it done before DEF CON, but basically internet in China is really bad, and I need help writing the copy. So David, if you have any time this week, I know you have very little else going on. So if you can take a break from Capoeira and give me a video call, that'd be cool. Otherwise, we're basically good to go. So
yeah, I need to like dial in and like really like spend an hour or more thinking, okay, what is all the information that we have? What is really the important information to have on the first page? And what else needs to be built for the examples and the tutorials so that people can get into with peer-to-peer?
Yep.
And just like haven't had the mental space to like go into that yet.
Totally understand, and it's up to you whenever you want to do that. I'm just waiting.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No.
But it is.
David's main to do, just for the notes, is to check the technical details.
No, his is to have a talk with me about how we market the site.
All right.
Who's it for? What are we putting on the front page? I've done as much as I can do technically with my understanding of what to be, and I'm sorry it's not enough to do the entire thing, but I tried really hard. So
no worries. Like, I know we already had some discussions and like the site improved a lot after those discussions. It's just like really like you have to like dial into that mode. Okay, like I'm building this site now, and haven't been able to like do that yet. But once like all the other madness ends, I'll definitely like, and like maybe we can like even like do next week. What?
Not when, if.
Not when, if. So maybe we can even like do an hour or two during team week after things are done for the day, like over a more relaxed environment. It's like
but we'll get to that. So milestone 5.
Yeah. So I did say that like one of our focuses for this quarter was milestone 5. Did I? It was. If I said like milestone 5 was for quarter Q3, I lied. If I didn't say, then I was right. So like milestone 5 was not like one of the focuses for this quarter. We did improve a lot in terms of examples, like the interop examples and so on, but there hasn't been like a strong commitment to writing really good documentation for peer-to-peer. Starting from the fact that we are still missing the interface with peer-to-peer, which is the interface that like every other peer-to-peer build should build on top. There is like some work started, but like it's not even like it's still far from being perfect. But that's like one of the goals, like one of the things that we want to have for the next quarter. Pretty much like what Jeremy said for IPFS, like next quarter, if we can like have a quarter or at least like half a quarter of like empowering the rest of the community to use the stuff that we built by creating documentation, examples, videos, tutorials, like demo apps. That would be like super useful for us and for all our contributors and all users. And it definitely like matches to the roadmaps that we already defined back in Lisbon, right? Like this is the first milestone, the next milestone. So matches to our previous expectations. And yeah, so this was peer-to-peer roadmap. We still are at 15 minutes.
So the 6, 7, and 8, those are not Q3.
They were not Q3. You can see here, like Q3. There's even like expected date of completion. Milestone 5 is Q4.
Okay, cool.
Number 8 was partially Q3, but there was no significant progress.
Lars, sorry, like it was in the end, and I missed to bring it up. You'd like to give an update on
no worries. No significant progress since Lisbon.
Okay. What do you like? Any reason why there hasn't been significant progress?
Mainly, I didn't get to it. I finally found some time last week to start prototyping a few libraries, like Multigram, for example, and got blocked by this dependency madness that we got ourselves into by moving everything into the multi-formats organization, which was the right move, but it just made obvious that we need better tooling around GX, and so I started working on that.
Richard?
Yeah, regarding moving stuff to multi-formats, I saw you've went through and like for every GX thing updated it. If I edit readmes, do we have to republish the package on npm or on gx? So
No.
can I merge those, or we don't? So I can just merge any JS or Go readme, and I don't have to update the package. Just it happens to the next.
Yep.
Depends on what is the change. If it's a API docs, yes. If it's like a batch for CI, it's like
No, just standardization. Like that's really kind of it.
Yeah, like it definitely should be published after. Like maybe just merge it and like then have an issue saying, hey, like you should publish a patch version of all these modules.
In that case, for JS stuff, I'll just actually wait and just have it be in each review, and I'll wait for you guys to merge it, because then you can say whether it can be published or not. Because I don't have access to publish rights. Right?
Yeah.
So instead of opening an issue, I'll just keep those PRs open.
Reviewing all the pull requests should be always like our practice, even if it drags them a little bit, but like it should be always in place.
Yeah, I've been getting
things that way. So even in readmes, like changing readmes, sometimes like some things get added or taken out because like just by lapse. And
yeah.
Hey, could you close your Facebook?
Oh, sorry.
You're still sharing your screen. You can end it if you want.
you know, like I didn't even notice.
But I'm glad you're checked into this.
For going on Facebook.
Yeah, it's like opening like notifications. It's like reflex now. Like
David,
could be I can use, could be whatever.
Uh-huh.
All right, now that I know my relative
I'm
importance.
really ashamed of myself. I'm sorry, guys.
So the reason I bring that up is because I've been getting pushback from a couple of people in the past 2 weeks about leaving PRs open as opposed to just merging them if they're just markdown files. Personally, I'm of the opinion that I mess up all the time because I'm human, and I'm a particularly messy human. And so I would like to have everyone review my PRs whenever. For JS, I'll just have you guys review it because then the stuff has to be published. That's kind of my MO. Does that make sense? Lars?
Yeah.
I'd say our default like I agree with David. The default should always be to wait for a review. And what I've been doing with the GX packages last week was explicitly ask Jeremy if I just go ahead merging stuff. And yeah, I think if you feel like it's useful to be able to just merge stuff, then ask somebody and get a kind of a preemptive. Looks good to me. And yeah.
So like all those HTTP redirects I just did, I might just merge those if they clearly don't break any packaging. But most of them are just like DS David. So
most of those are just go ahead and ship it. That's not an issue.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm so sorry, Matt. Yes.
So there's two more things here in the notes. So someone put a bunch of stuff for PubSub testnet in here. Do you want to talk about that, or is it just there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, V.
Sorry, I didn't even notice. You just like appeared. Go ahead. You have to bring it up.
So I took your flood sub implementation and basically last week broke the PubSub testnet into a bunch of modules that we can start using built against that. And David, it'd be good to like follow up with you after like an email about like some of the implementation details for like deeper benchmarks. But basically what you see there is we've got kind of a handful of modules now that people can either build and contribute to the testnet ecology, or they can use these as, so like there's basically like there's a node, there's a logger, there's the stats, there's topologies, and then there's the actual network. And basically these all kind of work in conjunction and anybody can contribute on any one of those. So feel free to check out the repos. The last of those is the PT or PSTN, the PubSub testnet itself. And that'll be going up tonight. So then anybody who's building strategies for this on the JS side can use these to test their strategy against it, as long as it kind of implements the same interface that David's has. But we can firm up that, in the next day or so, and then have actual standards for that somebody can use. Then this.
Flood sub in and already started like hanging with it. Were you here for the previous calls? Like, basically, I know it's on my to-do list that I need to give feedback to that and also try it out. And I also do month. It has been just like impossible to go through all the things. But it is like one of the very big to-dos on my task list right now, one of the most important ones. So what else? Like, okay, so I need to give you feedback. I need to give you like review on the benchmarking tests, and I need to mount the flood sub on the pubset testnet. Is there any other thing that?
Yeah, it'd be something that's a little deeper. So like some of the basic benchmarks of message propagation are easy to grab, but some of the deeper stuff about duplications and things, I need access to the nodes stream. Like I noticed, anyways, it's a little more, so like kind of diving into what I have access to on the logging side. So maybe kind of an offline chat about that would be useful.
Sounds good. I remember like one of the things I mentioned was about like getting all of those signals through logs instead of like attaching to the nodes, so that then we can just even like do the inferring what's going on the network after the run was executed. So like just capture all the logs from all the nodes and then like throw it on the visualizer and like see all the messages propagated through time.
That's what's happening.
We could take to go back in time and say, oh, like this event happened, this event happened. I guess like that can even be more useful than like just watching it like real time, being able to capture everything and then go back and forth and really understand what's going on. Yeah. So yeah, sounds good. I'll try to be more timely on getting that feedback.
There's literally no rush. Like the next 24, 48 hours, all this stuff's being wrapped up. So you guys have other stuff. I'm just like gonna get this done and it'll be waiting.
Okay, see, thank you for coping with all of the madness. Cool. Friedel, you asked the question, organization about the way peer-to-peer doing it. You mean the recipe, like the things that people need to build? You're muted. You are still muted. Was it the thing I mentioned about the list of modules that people should build in order to get an implementation in another language? You can like do a thumbs up, and if it, okay, cool.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Cool. Yeah, I think I unplugged my mic. Yes, that was the issue. So just quick context why I asked for that was I'm thinking of the next steps for making Rust P2P happen. Because I write too little code, so I thought I'd write some more code in my free time. And I was thinking like of just general structure and what to do next.
Wait, you have free time?
I stopped sleeping, so I now have more time.
So
looking to get back into Rust. So.
I can like find it. I think Matt also knows what it is. I think it's on the IPFS community right now.
Okay, cool.
It was like created for building your own IPFS, but that also means like you have to create some things in Wikipedia.
Yeah, my current thinking is that the next most important thing is multi-stream. But
yeah, multi-stream, multi-codec. Let me see where it is. Supporting modules. So issue 177. Yeah, multi-other, multi-stream, multi-ash is also I think
multi-adder already.
Book, peer-to-peer crypto.
What's the issue number?
One I can like post it here. It's easier.
Thank you. I'm putting it into the notes as well. Yes. Yeah, multi-formats, and then yeah, cool.
Are you looking for the ticket of like the things to implement if you're looking to implement IPLD in a specific language? I just put it in the notes. It's IPFS Community Issue 177.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's what David links in the chat too.
Oh, sorry.
We found the issue now.
Thanks.
Whatever noise that is, could you disable it?
I don't know. Where's it coming from?
Not for me.
I think it was Matt.
It might have been the baby crying
There's a
in the
screaming
stairwell above
child
us.
who's
Oh
dying.
yeah. Oh yeah. Then yeah.
It's
That
very
was
sad.
it. Okay. Could you please turn it off?
No.
I'm joking.
We have 4 minutes left. So
Well, that was all that I could think of. I think that we covered it all. I don't know, like Jeremy, do you want to say something about milestone 2, or what are your hopes to review that, or how do you want to handle that specific milestone, which was about improving activity in IPFS?
Yeah, so we have a few different milestones that got broken up into. Let me pull that up. Do you have that issue about it?
It's on. There you go. It's the issue number 7 on peer-to-peer.
Cool. So if you look at the GoLib P2P milestones page, we have 3 milestones open. I'll post that here-ish. So basically there's 3 different things. We have improved NAT traversal, we have implementing relay, and we have connection closing. Each of those is what that previously called milestone 2 was made up of. And so these are things we definitely want to work on in Q4. As far as improving NAT traversal, I'm getting set up to build a NAT traversal test network so we can actually test these things and verify that different things work. Implementing relay, we don't have a solid timeline on that yet. We should talk about that when we get together for planning. And then connection closing is also pretty hard. But as we switch to different content routing systems and discuss that, I think we can have a better strategy forward with that. So I think the only one that's near-term actionable is improving NAT traversal. And the only real actionable item there at this point is testing. So NAT traversal testing is probably going to be pretty close up on our list of to do for libp2p.
Sounds good. Does anyone? Well, I was aware of pretty much these things because I've taken with Jeremy several times. Does anyone have any question? So the NAT traversal lab is literally routers and machines and the nets, being able to configure all of these routers remotely through a setup that enables us to configure different NAT setups. Kind of quite an endeavor. If we get it really done right, I feel that a lot of people from the mesh communities will be very excited about that project. Because testing mesh protocols is hard because typically there's no easy way to configure hardware remotely in a way that's easily repeatable. We see that happening every year at Battle Mesh. There's a lot of energy and time invested to get the mesh for the tests, and sometimes it doesn't even happen. So it requires a lot of work, but it's going to be very exciting for a lot of communities. Friedel, I believe you raised it for a second.
I just wanted to mention that at some point we also have to think about this in JavaScript land.
Or the NAT traversal stuff. Yeah.
Also,
we should be able to
go, David.
Go ahead, Kuba.
So also, I don't know really. I know that we are in Go IPFS. We are doing UPA, Universal Plug and Play for routers. I don't know if we are really doing any sort of punching through the NATs, because if you have your own router, you'll enable UPnP. But in more and more networks, you are either dual NATed with the external router being configured by provider, and usually they don't provide UPnP, which means that the hole punching is the only option, which will make matters more and more complex.
Well, I guess that's a good thing, right? It means we are going to test for those cases.
Yeah, we will, but it might. There are NAT setups that are you can reconfigure them, meaning UPnP doesn't work and are unpunchable, which means that the P2P won't have direct connections, which means that you will have to have relays and so on. But there are plans either for them either way. So yeah.
Richard has a technical point. I guess it's time for the next call.
C'est là.
Which is Orbit. Thank you, everyone. And I hope that this was useful. Next week, we'll have another one to discuss the planning of Q4. So be sure to be present. Now,
Thank you, David.
Orbit.
Hot Code, you're still here, correct? Yes, you are.
I'm definitely here.
Dreidel, do we have to start it over or streaming? Okay. In that case,
All right, let's do this. It's been a long time since we talked about apps on IPFS and Orbit specifically.
Anybody
So
taking notes?
since you didn't ask in the past 3 months, I thought it would be a good time to do at least one per quarter to talk about Orbit. So Richard.
note taker. Larson. Oh, Larson.
Not
sorry.
me.
Lars, are you note taking?
Okay.
Thanks, Lars.
All right, good. So let's go through what happened in the last quarter with Orbit, and then let's see kind of what the main theme for the goals is for the next quarter. I'm gonna share my screen here, I think. Can you see that? The roadmap?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So we had 4 goals for Orbit and Orbit DB this quarter. Basically, the first one was to fix Orbit after the decentralized web milestone that was to make Orbit run on JS IPFS. And so we had a lot of technical debt and a lot of hacks that just needed to be fixed. That was done in August already, I think. So then basically what has been the driving force throughout the past 2 months has been the work leading up to DevCon 2. So what we wanted to do is to integrate Orbit with Uport, which is a Ethereum-based identity system that was also presented for some at DevCon. And yeah, basically we managed to do that. It's not in master yet, so I don't consider the milestones done yet, but I'm in the process of merging everything into master and finishing the milestone before end of the quarter. So I guess before yesterday or Friday. So that's that. The integration works nicely. It's cool. The DevCon talk, as soon as it comes out, is about that, and there's a demo of it. So maybe we can demo it later a little more once we have that, or a blog post, or let's see what we can come up with. Then the next one was to improve Orbit's documentation and developer experience. Basically, a lot of code refactoring, a lot of documentation update, a lot of just, creating issues and improving everything for other people to dive into the project. A lot of it has been done, but there's still a lot to work on, and I'm working on it this week. We'll see if I actually can finish all of that within a week, but maybe not. Then the 4th milestone was Orbit with IPFS PubSub, and we managed to do that. And this was okay. So we talked earlier about miscommunication regarding the goals and so on. I left Lisbon with the impression that we probably won't get it in this quarter, the PubSub, but if it comes, we'll integrate it into Orbit. I've been wanting PubSub for over a year now, so I'm very happy that we did it. At the same time, it cost us all, I guess, quite a bit of unplanned work, which was what we did in Shanghai then. But that all said, we got it working. Orbit is working with IPFS PubSub now. And what that means is we finally don't have any servers, right? So it's completely distributed without any server involved. You can't shut it down. It's like amazing. Like this is huge, right? Finally, we're at this point with peer-to-peer technologies that we can claim something like that, and that's absolutely amazing. So big kudos to David, Jeremy, Juan for making PubSub happen. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So the PubSub version is also not merged into master in Orbit, but also something I will do this week as soon as I get everything cleaned up and so on. So if we take a look at the board, so I don't know if anyone has looked at this, but basically on the far right, you can see everything that was done in the past 7 days. There's always a lot of like pull requests of updating modules and so on. I usually just hide them and use the issues, so that's kind of why it looks very little. But then again, not a lot was done in the past week. There's all the DevCon, UPort, and PubSub related things still open in progress. Working towards finishing those up and closing the milestones this week. Everything else in progress is just updating modules, actually. Yeah, a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the documentation developer experience milestone was on, improving everything code-wise and documentation-wise. So there's tasks like reducing build size or making the build time faster and so on. A lot of it has been done, but I think this is going to be an ongoing effort. And as the JS IPFS gets smaller and smaller, it will directly affect the Orbit stuff too, which is awesome. So then what is in progress or planned to be worked on very soon is one of these is actually a new database type for OrbitDB called Document Store. It's kind of like indexed document store where you can say index the documents or the database entries by a certain field in the data that you enter, and then you can search based on that. So say a document title, you can retrieve items based on the document title. It's very simple at this point, but it adds another kind of usable database type to.
Is that similar to CouchDB's views, where you have a map and a view, where you have a map function, and every new document is piped through that function, and based on the results, an index is built up that can be queried?
Yeah, similar to that.
Okay, cool.
Right now, I don't think or not. Yeah, it's similar to that. Short story. Yeah.
I got one.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm supposed to ask questions now or later.
Go. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
So yeah, one thing I wanted to ask about this document store is if it will have like a change view, so that you can subscribe to the changes of the document.
Mm-hmm.
If that's planned.
Yes.
Yes. Cool.
Yes, that's basically out of the box for any OrbitDB database. So you can listen to changes to a particular field or to the whole tape.
And then the other thing I was thinking about is, so I don't know how much you've looked into, like Lars mentioned CouchDB, and into PouchDB, which is the JavaScript Lite version of it.
Yeah.
But I know it is possible to write like a new backends for PouchDB. So if you already can implement a document store on top of OrbitDB, it might be not that far-fetched to implement a backend for PouchDB in OrbitDB, which would be pretty amazing.
There is a discussion about that.
Oh, there's already a discussion.
Yeah, there's a discussion. First of all, I personally won't have the time to write it. So this would be a fantastic thing for someone in the community to do. And also, I'm not exactly, like, I didn't look in detail how PouchDB works and like what you would exactly need to write, but from all I can tell, it should be fairly easy to do. Cool. Or the other way around, you can also use CouchDB as a backend for OrbitDB, but that's a different story.
That's a but the cool, really cool thing that I would see here is like, because for example, PouchDB is used for Hoodie. You could, if you were able to use OrbitDB as a backend for PouchDB, you can use Hoodie apps distributed without a server suddenly, which
that'd be very cool. That'd be very cool. I'm gonna paste the link on IRC to the discussion regarding the PouchDB backend. Yeah, definitely something that we could do. It's a matter of priorities and who has the time for doing that. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what has been happening. Any questions regarding that, or shall we talk about what's going to happen?
I have one question. If I remember correctly, like a couple of weeks, a month ago, you mentioned you were working, or at least thinking about an IRC bridge for Orbit.
Yeah.
Is there anything about that?
So there is a prototype. So first of all, a bridge is kind of tricky how exactly you're going to do it. There is a prototype that pulls IRC channel into an Orbit channel, and you can basically, receive all the IRC messages in Orbit. That's actually trivial. The harder part is to kind of how do you integrate that into the Orbit client. So my current thinking is that we're just going to put an IRC client there so that the identity is the same for, like for you in Orbit and in IRC, so that you can have two-way things. So basically how it would work is that, so this Orbit program that pulls IRC channel into Orbit channel is a bot. It can join multiple channels, and it just basically puts everything into a OrbitDB database. And so you need to run one of those. So that's kind of the server part, like you would have for a bridge. But it doesn't make sense to, or like it gets tricky when you start going the other way around. So posting messages back to IRC.
Yep.
Not sure exactly how to do that, but that's a great bridge into what we're gonna do next with Orbit, because IRC integration is actually one of the things I really want to get working as soon as possible, so that anyway. So that's one of the things. This kind of like how exactly we can create different data pipelines that connect different communication systems and integrate with Orbit. So I don't expect anything groundbreaking to happen in the next months, but at least the IRC integration is something I really want to work on. Maybe others. Let's see. So that all kind of said, a lot of the work that we did in or for DevCon 2 was to actually make Orbit kind of stable, make it easy to build, make it easy to run in different kinds of environments, different platforms, different IPFS versions, and so on. And given the feedback that we've received over the months, and especially recently, we definitely want to make Orbit a real thing. Like, so far, Orbit has been a test bed for IPFS to figure out how exactly we do things, what kind of things we need to do. And it's always been more of a constant prototype, right? And I think right now we're at a point where we can actually kind of we have nailed down the very core of it, the very core communication mechanisms and how we can do it, how we can make it completely distributed, how we can scale it up to a certain limit, and so on. So now is a good time to put some effort into making Orbit something that you can just, give a link to a friend, they can download it, they just double click it, and you get the whole thing running. So that's one part, like making it actually work in a very different environments. The other part is that it would be awesome to start dog fooding on it. And that's kind of the overarching goal, is like make it work for a team of this size or whatever, like tens or a few hundred people. And that's kind of the leading goal for the next quarter, whatever that entails. We'll figure that out in the next couple of weeks. Freedom.
Yeah, two things on that. One is, because I think for a team to work on it, one thing that is super useful are some kind of bots and very easy integration of somehow running a bot. What is the current state of doing that? And the other thing is, I don't know how much time I will have, but I'm definitely happy to talk and help out in planning about packaging and all the things, because I did a lot of research and a lot of planning for Station, which I never finished, but I have like a list of actually packaging tasks and what needs to happen to package Electron apps really nicely.
Right.
So
okay, yeah, definitely I would love some help. Anyone out there, there's a lot to do. Regarding the packaging, that's actually working quite nicely right now. The only part that we're missing is signing the OSX builds. It's all automated on Circle CI, so we basically get GC binaries out of Circle CI, and now we need to figure out a way to put them to dist or wherever we end up distributing the binaries. But it's all relatively well working actually already, but there's definitely stuff to do on that side. Regarding the bots, take a look at the bot link I just put on IRC. That's basically all you need to do to write the bot in Orbit. So like a few lines of code and you're done.
Nice. Maybe so, because I imagine imagine when we, for example, would start using Orbit, we don't want to go and write all the bots ourselves.
Yeah.
So maybe we could write a small wrapper, which I imagine, looking at this code, is probably not that hard, to make UBots working on Orbit. Because then we could just use this whole ecosystem that's already existent. Like, people know how to write them.
Exactly.
And just feed them in if you want to.
Yeah, that was something we talked in Shanghai, but I haven't added a ticket for it yet. But let's keep that in mind. A HuBot integration with Orbit would be exactly what we need to get started with the whole bot development. Also, I definitely want to do a lot of different types of bot, mainly for development purposes and testing purposes, so that we can emulate a network of, communicating nodes. But also, making sure that things are cached in the network, kind of like pinning but for messages type of thing, and whatever we end up needing. It should be fairly easy. Like the first milestone of this quarter, which was fix orbit, was a lot to do with making it really easy to create these bots. And it's going to get even easier once we do a little bit more refactoring and basically separating orbit, the communication code, from the actual application UI, which are still in the same repo, and that just doesn't make sense. But once we do, then it's just npm install 10 lines of code, and you have an Orbit bot running in the network. So, yeah. If you have anything, if you would start using Orbit tomorrow, what would be the things that you would want to have out of it? Let me know. Open issues. What would be your dream chat client? What should it do if it's not listed already in the issues or not working in Orbit, and so on? I definitely want to hear all that feedback and take that into consideration. That all said, I'm not sure how many kind of new features we will have time to implement in the next 3 months. It's probably going to be much more concentrated on making it work, right? So we'll see. But I'm sure there's time always for some new cool stuff. That's it from my side. Any questions, comments, feedback? No.
I can't wait. I can't wait, actually.
Do you have it written down clearly in your docs about how to propose new features, that you're interested in hearing about new features?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't think so. I was looking at your contribute for Orbit this morning. I'll see if I can write up a better contribute file.
Yeah.
But I think you say a lot of stuff here, which is really great. I would love some help. Anyone out there? What would your ideal chat client be? Let me know. And I don't think I see that in the Orbit docs. And I think having like a landing page maybe for Orbit as well would be super sweet, because you know a lot of buzz around it right now. Like, especially you go to conferences and talk about it, but I feel like it's mostly you saying that. And if we can have that written somewhere else, people can see it asynchronously, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so you mean landing page for the development of Orbit, or
say Orbit, like here's a chat client, here's a GIF of it, this is what we're doing, how can you help?
Like a product page?
Exactly.
Let's talk about that in the coming weeks. Definitely we need a website. Let's see what exactly is the target audience, and whether it's on the development side or kind of on the user side.
I mean, I think your target audience is developers who are also users. So I want to make sure we get them on board. For now, I'll work on your contribute and see if I can help you out there. But. Yeah,
definitely. That would be appreciated. And also keep the PRs coming, even though if I don't take everything in, they're still very, very helpful.
Okay, I'll try. Sometimes I'm not sure because you close a lot of them.
Yeah, sorry, man. But yeah, good. Nothing else, I guess. So, Matt.
This is not an Orbit thing, but it's a HOD thing. Could you look at issue number 5 on the roadmap generator? Because a couple people offered to work on this one thing of supporting labels as milestones. I know you've thought about it already. So even if you don't have time to work on it, if you could just weigh in on how it should be done, because we might want to use it next week.
Yeah, definitely. I won't have the time to work on it, but if there's somebody who's willing to work on it, then yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I guess we're done with this call. Awesome. That was nice.
Thank you, Hod. I've got one more question. Do you we're gonna have this call for Orbit next week again for planning, I think, as far as I know. Do you want to keep them on the regular schedule, or do you think it's enough for now to keep them in a as need basis?
Probably on a regular schedule. It doesn't have to be Orbit. We could bring back the apps thing so that we don't always talk about Orbit. I'm sure there's a lot of other cool stuff there that warrants discussion and demos, especially.
I've seen requests
to engage people to just bring anything that they have into these calls and talk about it.
I've seen requests, I think mainly from Novel, for apps on IPFS to come back. And
Yeah.
it would also be cool if even if we don't have any content, just have a 2-minute thing saying, like, hey, we're still a thing, nothing on the agenda this week. It's awesome. Does anyone need help? Okay, no. Have a good week.
Yeah, that is probably what the format should be.
Does this time work? Because I can just add it to the template.
Yeah, sure. I personally would prefer earlier, but it's fine if this is the only slot. No worries.
Next week, is the slot Orbit though, or is it apps on IPFS?
Let's keep it Orbit and focus on that because we need to do a lot of planning in the coming weeks.
Let's open an issue, about this planning, and then see for the next quarter.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm super excited about finally having a completely distributed chat working on IPFS on the permanent web. So this is a incredible time to be alive. Eh? With that, see you later.
Sweet.
everyone on the Etherpad?
Should be. Hello, everyone. Welcome to IPLD. This is going to be chaired by Nicola, as is usual. It should last around 30 minutes. And we're going to go over some things that happened in Q3 and then a couple other things Nicola's probably going to talk about. Pretty excited. If you have any questions, raise an RC. You know the drill. This is the last call today. So, Nicola, take it away.
Okay. So, what we've been working on in the last quarter was to get all the different issues that we had with IPLD. And it was not just about getting all the issues, but we want to rewrite the spec, meaning that we want to finalize a very version 1 spec for IPLD. That was the aim for me in this quarter. We aren't at the stage in which we have a final spec, but we have agreed on very many things in this past quarter. So there's a list of, go for it.
Who's the note taker for this call? Thank you, Freedom.
So now that I open the page, we've been going through a lot of stuff that were ambiguous before, because I was planning to write in the spec, and as soon as I was structuring the spec, I came up, and other people in the community, more than I did, came up with different refinements that need to be discussed, or we need to have some agreement on. So we have all agreed on all the ones that I'm posting here, agreed. And some of them were related to relative paths, some were related to some work that eventually led to CID, or the CID solved. And then we have other issues which are still to be discussed. Oh, someone removed that. Oh, there you go. And yeah, so there were 2 key things on my side that I wanted to achieve. One is the writing of this IPLD paper, which is work in progress. I haven't shared with most of you, but I'm going to share with the rest of the community as soon as I can. I think I should sync with Juan about how to do this in the best way. And I think there is an issue where Richard is like pinging. I saw you pinging me on the internet sometimes. Anyway, so that's something that we need to fix. This was meant to be in August, but then August was impossible, and then we're a month through the deadline. And I'm going to update everyone soon with a public post. And the second thing was the IPLD spec, which there's been too many changes happening in the last few weeks from the IPLD formats and so on, and I really need to sync with before we go deeper into it. Although the new IPLD spec, we kind of have agreed on what's going to be inside. There is going to be, should I go through it, although we've gone through the past, or you guys can look at previous conversations? I think most of you were here. Anyway, so basically the IPLD spec is going to go through the concept of Merkle link and how to guidelines for the structured data and a description of SIBO, plus all the refinements that we discussed in this week's. And another thing that we discussed in this week's that is very important to think about is how we get to implement IPLD. And I would like to think in this call with David, because is we hardly talked recently, and we've gone through a lot of conversation with Matt, Richard, and Friedel, and Stephen about how we want, what are the different layers that we need for IPLD. And then there is whole new work from your side, which we are not aware of. And also, to make the spec finalized, we need also to get CID. I personally, but as a community, I want to have a sort of finalized CID, and we have to discuss a few points before we move forward. And then the second thing there was a set of things. It was about building the website, building the playground, which unfortunately I haven't tracked personally. I only have tracked things that regarded IPLD in terms of academic work or in terms of spec.
I can give a quick update on the website.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the quarter, Richard, Nicola, and I talked about the website and the playground. And Richard, I talked with him last week, and he's going to implement. So there's a first draft version of IPLD, and now he's going to go and implement the next version based on a design I did earlier this quarter, which will include a nice welcome page with a list of implementations and a page where the spec is rendered and can be read nicely. The playground will come later after, because that's going to need to be reviewed and redone, especially with all the changes that are happening. So we're delaying the playground, but we will have a nice website soon. Thanks to Richard.
Should be able to get that done by next Saturday, or by this Saturday. So at some point during this week, I'll just be editing at estimated time, 4 to 6 hours. So realistically, 10 to 20, which hopefully we'll done with.
Okay. So what is we can dive deeper in other stuff, although most of the stuff that we have discussed are all written down in meeting notes. So I would suggest things like how to build cycles in IPLD, or what we have agreed on relative paths or not. They are all in previous conversations. I think you can go and pick them up. They are under IPFS/PM. And what's going to happen in the next week? Possibly before, actually, not possibly, very likely, before the meeting altogether, it would be great for me to present, for me and actually for all the other people that have worked on this, to present us draft 0. So we can actually say draft 0 of the IPLD spec, so that we can remove any disagreement that we have, so that we can aim at version 1 during the next quarter. And in terms of the paper that I'm writing, I will ping some of you individually. And the deadline is the 16th of October, which is 2 days after the event. 2 days after the meeting, and I would like to be done by then. Is there something else that we want to discuss, as in general review of the past term? How were the other meetings led today?
It's kind of up to you. I mean, I didn't want to give the impression that you had to do
okay.
something. Like
Okay, I thought someone had like some precise structure and so.
No, that's fine.
You're good. So let's move on to you talking with David, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I raised a particular issue, but the issue we can discuss, me and David, either async or at the end of this call. I want David to give me an update on what's happening with CID right now, and what are you planning for the implementation of tools to use IPLD?
Sure. So there is this pull request, which links to a lot of other pull requests, and it describes one missing piece that we discovered in the last couple of weeks. That is the IPLD format spec, like the interface to handle IPLD formats. For a very long time, we have been discussing IPLD as being this Merkle-linked format that is more loose than protobufs, because we wanted to be able to mount any kind of data structure without having encapsulating like blob by blob in a protobuf. And we kind of like choose the route of going into JSON plus CBOR. So, and then we started describing IPLD object as being like CBOR objects, because it was this binary packed format that like was a standard and was universal for all the languages, etc. That's still on. Like, so we still have the DAG CBOR, and DAG CBOR is one of the IPLD formats that we want to support. The thing that we discovered on the last couple of weeks was a way to, instead of like enforce everyone saying, hey, like this is the IPLD format, now you have to like force your app into this IPLD format. It's more loose than protobuf. You don't have to encapsulate every block in the history of mankind inside a protobuf, but you still have to do this JSON thing, or we can resolve for you your own Merkle DAG. But in order for us to traverse through your Merkleized data structure, you have to give us a way to see it as we see our IPLD CBOR. And that's what we have been going after for like since Lisbon, or even like a little bit before Lisbon. What we discovered was, oh, like if we tell people, developers, maintainers, implementers, hey, give us these primitives for your Merkle data structure, because it's going to be always a tree of values and links. So we just need two primitives, one called resolve, another called tree. Tree is kind of like ls, but for trees. So imagine like, you know, the ls command on the CLI. If you install the tree tool, you get the tree version of all the directories. The .tree primitive is the same thing for Merkle data structures. It basically maps out all of the paths that are available on any format. Of course, I cannot, like, if I implement DAG protobuf and DAG CBOR, I cannot bring in a Bitcoin block and like apply the same algorithm and like get a view of all of these paths on their Merkle data structure, because it's not going to be the same. So they need to give me their function that receives a block, the serialized version of their data format, and that I give them this block, and it gives me the paths that are available and the values. And the same thing goes for resolve. We talked a lot about like how to handle resolving across multiple data structures, even data structures that are a mix of several data structures. And we found a lot about like, oh, like we have like these IPLD really nice objects that are linked to each other, but then like we can get linked to something that's Git, but then we like miss the ability to resolve through those Git objects, because we are on this like context of the IPLD resolver. So how to solve this? How to solve this goes back again to the interface IPLD formats, where you not only provide with this tree primitive, you also provide with a .resolve primitive, which takes a block, again, the serialized version of that data format, and takes a path and returns a value and a partial path. And the partial path is, think, if I have like A/B/C/whatever, and I give it a block and then tell like, hey, data structure that I know you are the right one because I looked at the seed of this query. I want this path. Can you give it to me? And then that function will like try to resolve that path under the scope of that block, and then return, here is the value if it manages to succeed, or here is the link that I managed to go through. So like imagine like A/B is a link, and the partial path that you are still missing. So now the IPLD resolver sees, oh, okay, so I already traversed through levels, and I have the next link to traverse to. So now I'm going to fetch this link from the network, and I'm going to continue resolving. So you see how I can even like switch between different Merkle data structures, because I can have like a DAG CBOR that at some point in the path points to a DAG protobuf, that at some point in the path points to an Ethereum block, and like because I keep like the data structures are disjoint, but the resolver always gives me the partial path that I still have to resolve through and the links to the next one. I can resolve through a very complex query that goes through all of the Merkle data structures in the world. Some of the things that were added to in order to make this happen was the interface IPLD format and the revamped multi-codec. We have been talking for a very long time that like the multi-codec for the CID on IPLD would be the CBOR multi-codec. And then we realized like we cannot really force this because more people might want to build IPLD formats or with protobuf. So we have to have specific multi-codecs for IPLD formats. So that's why we have now the DAC PB multi-codec, which is like for a DAC protobuf multi-codec, the DAC CBOR, the Ethereum block, and so forth and so on. So it's like a whole section of the table, of the multi-codec table that that needs to be there in order for this to work. Now, another question that you might be thinking, oh, like now if you have like an IPFS version that it's not packed with the latest table of multi-codec, so it will not be able to understand a new format that appeared meanwhile. That's okay, because like it just means that like for that node, it will not be able to do all of the complex resolving through. It will just like, well, I wanted to resolve through this block, but I don't really know how to do it because I don't have the multi-codec, so I don't have the local resolver. So I'm just going to give the block to the upper level. And then it's up to the application to understand, oh, like IPFS, because it's a version that's not like patched, not plugged in with the resolver and the .3 for that specific IPLD format, it cannot do that. But we can always like add that anytime, right? So Freedom raised his hand and then like drop it. Did I clarify the question meanwhile?
No, it didn't. I was trying to take notes and write down the exact thing that resolve would return, and it wasn't entirely clear. So you give it a block in the path, right? And it will return either the value at the end of the path, like it currently does, or it does something else. But what's the trigger for the something else return?
So from the top, IPV resolver dot resolve CID, nothing else. It gets the first block from Bitswap or the repo, doesn't matter. And now like this CID is not only a CID, but it's also a CID slash attack. Now I'm going to check the multi-codec for this CID. Turns out it's a DAG protobuf. So now I'm going to get the local resolver. If you check the IPLD resolver, there's like a line for like support, and like you give it the multi-codec and like this resolver function. And I'm going to call, with this first block I fetched, the local resolver for DAG protobuf. And I'm going to give the path that I want. But path example, A/B/C, given that B is the link, not a direct element on that tree. We give it to the local resolver, and the local resolver will be able to resolve till B, and then we'll return like B saying, here is how far as I could get, giving the local block scope. So like the local resolver, what that means is like for IPLD format implementers, they don't have to understand something like a DAG service. They will not have to understand fetching blocks from the network. They just have to give you what they can figure out from the block scope and a path. That's why they say like, hey, like I just managed to get this far. Here's the rest of the path I cannot parse through. So that then the IPLD resolver can like go to Bitswap, fetch the next block, and then like go again, hey, resolver, a local resolver, resolve from this block that I just fetched the rest of the path that I didn't manage to fetch before. And then the story continues till you get the value.
I have a question and then something to say. And the question is, say that I want to implement a new data format. Okay? Now, will I need to register a multi-codec for my data format?
Before answering your question, I will answer another question, which is UnixFS an IPLD format? And the answer is no. UnixFS is something that writes on top of an IPLD format, which means right now it's what already is happening. IPFS, UnixFS is writing on the DAG protobuf format. So you ask if I need to implement a new format, do I need to add it to the multi-codec table? If it's something like UnixFS, like an application layer format, like something that you are just like, you don't really care about how your graph is built. You just want to build a graph. And probably with the Seaboard, you will be able to do whatever, right? Like that's the goal. That's why we picked Seaboard in the first place. After all, like only very rare cases you will want to write your own IPLD format. However, if you want to write an application that leverages several Merkle data formats, namely Git, Bitcoin, the blockchain from Bitcoin, the blockchain from Ethereum, and so on, you don't want to force those blocks, at least for now. Like they might change and like decide, oh no, now we want to also use the DAXI board, but that's their decision, not ours.
Yeah,
we want to be inclusive in our design. So yeah, you don't have to write a new multi-codec unless you want to create your own. For example, one of the things that we have asked ourselves if is Ion, Amazon Ion, could be a better binary packed format for IPLD, because Seaboard doesn't let you do 6, like it doesn't have like a table that like tells you where the values are. You have to like read the whole thing, while Ion lets you read, like you let you jump, right? And that's like super interesting for us, right? Like that's one of the things that we wanted in the first place. So now you say, oh, I want this to be very fast. I need like an Ion binary packed IPLD. You can write your IPLD Ion and like just go to the resolver and call resolver.support multi-codec Ion. Here's the resolve function. Here's the diff function. There you go. Support it.
So in essence, the question is, this, if I want to implement that, then I will have to ask the multi-codec organization, the multi-format organization to add a new format.
So for the whole world to understand it, but like if
I'm only talking about the whole world.
The primitive to support is there.
Yeah.
So the primitive to support it, you can create thousands of them. You don't have to ask permission to anyone. If you want the whole world to understand it, yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So I don't want to go into the Ethereum question because that could take like too much time. But I will want to go through that sometime soon.
Yeah.
And so because in some work that I'm doing, and some work that we all did together in when we were talking about transformations, whatever you call a resolver. For me, there are two types of resolvers. One, and they all work in the same way, in which basically they take a block and a path and they output a graph. Now, this one type of resolver is a parser. Sorry, one type of resolver is just a parser. You give me something and I parse it into an IPLD, like SIBO to IPLD.
Okay, you mean like, okay, I got it. Like you basically say like you have Seaboard stored objects and now you got an IPLD object, which is a value or whatever.
Yeah. So basically you have one first category of resolvers, which are parsers. And which basically they are able to read an object and resolve a path in a particular into the IPLD world. Yeah. And then we have a different type of resolver, which is once I have the IPLD object, I want to which could be a structured or non-structured object. And we have maybe to discuss deeper in even that. But now from IPLD to IPLD, this resolver or this process is called transformation. Yeah. So
still on the same page there. Like maybe we should always call it by different names. Like always call the transformation like something that uses a resolver to first get the data blocks and then like transforms it to another thing and like returns.
Deal.
Okay. Awesome.
But maybe other right now or. No, sorry, not right now because I will have to go very soon. Hold on 1 second, Richard. Either sometime soon, either in a group or personally, I would like to discuss how to build, when do we decide amongst a new data format or a new application? And a new data format means having a new parser. A new application means having a new transformation.
Yes. So yeah.
Because is native transformation.
So that's definitely like something that we have to create a process for. There are some in terms of like format that are obvious because they are the ones that are already out there and very widely adopted.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Git, and other things.
Yeah.
That's why we already have like Stellar, like that's why we already have like stubs on the multi-codec pull requests with those.
Yeah.
There's more. There will be like a small frictionless process of like, hey, I have this new other format. Can I allocate a number of you on your magic table? I was like, yeah, fine. But it will require some process. On the transformations, that should be up to the developer. Like people should like there should like Unix FS engine or the files API should be mounted on top of the object/DAG API very easily. Like even though the way that we have the files should be just mounted on top, so that other people can understand how they can mount that on top of IPFS as well for their application level performance.
Yeah.
We are not going to rip out files from IPFS because that's like a primitive that's there. Like people we lost Nicola. We lost Nicola. I guess I talked too much. He died.
Well, it's exactly 30. So he said he had to go at half.
Maybe that's it.
So maybe it was like a hard
Like,
cut on, like the power was cut.
Off the internet.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you, everyone. That was apparently the IPLD talk. If you have any questions, drop them in the sprint issue. I don't know what else we can do right now.
I've got one question for you, David, before we go away.
Sorry, Jeremy.
You can go, Jeremy, if you want to. I'm not forcing you to stay.
Yeah, feel free to rest. You have been in chats for like 5 hours now.
So, and that is because when you were explaining the different level of resolver, you were calling one local resolver. And I think it would be a lot easier to understand this if you just call one resolve and one local resolve, or make it much more clear that the resolve function and the tree function that are part of the format are local. They just understand their
You mean
local
like
world.
none of the API?
Yeah.
That sounds great. We actually had a bike-chaining discussion about this. We didn't agree on it.
You didn't take...
So I definitely agree. I always prefer
bike-shedding
than implicit. And there was some names like partial resolver, but partial resolver is weird. There's like local resolver, but like, what does it mean local? But like, it will not touch ever the internet, like will not ever get blocks, which is true. It doesn't get like to know the DAG service. Should it be scoped resolver? Yeah, I agree. Having a better name will improve a lot of like people understanding what's going on there. Yeah, I guess like we can flip a coin next week over a bunch of names, not just pick one that makes sense to everyone, something like that.
Format resolver. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think local resolver is actually really good.
Yeah, I've been like explaining this to people as local resolver.
Internal?
And it's like setting it into my mind as well. What?
Internal? I don't know.
Yeah.
So many words, so little time.
What's...
Richard, you are our mandatory language professional. What do you think?
Synonyms.
What are you looking for a word for? The interminable process of this call.
I think I could. I've been like chatting for a very long time.
Yeah, we are chatting for too long.
We're in a Mobius conversation.
I need food. Otherwise,
let's cut this off. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Change. We will check on Nicola and make sure he's still alive.
He's alive.
We're supposed to have dinner with him tonight, so.
Okay, yeah. Please update us if you'd like.
Unless he's dead.
Yeah, if he doesn't show up, we'll let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.